My Star Empire. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 End. At the moment of impact, the position that protected the antimatter from reacting with the outside world was instantly shattered, and the antimatter collided with the positive matter in the universe and annihilated, releasing an extremely huge amount of energy. At this moment, the position of the radiant mothership emitted a light comparable to 10 suns, and all the pilgrim warships were swallowed up by this light. The raging energy instantly tore the shield of the radiant mothership apart, and the hull of the radiant mothership also collided with the antimatter and became the nutrient of this dazzling light. The pilgrim prophet was swallowed up by the light before he could even say his last words, and evaporated and disappeared in the universe. The entire process of antimatter annihilation and energy release lasted only 3 seconds, and the antimatter was consumed. However, the energy released in these 3 seconds has completely destroyed the pilgrim fleet and is still expanding outward. It seems that 2 stars have appeared in the entire Pay star system, and all the meteorites or spaceships wrapped in this light evaporated instantly. The Imperial fleet that has not yet withdrawn in time has also lost tens of thousands of warships in this attack. After the energy was released and the reaction disappeared, the entire starry sky seemed to have been purified, and not even a speck of dust could be found. Is it over? Qiu beside Li Mingze whispered. Yes, it's over. Li Mingze nodded and turned to leave the bridge. A powerful enemy was wiped out like this, without even a trace of dregs left. This made Li Mingze sigh with emotion. Life is so fragile. He dared not imagine what he would do if his empire encountered such a civilization that could crush him one day. Congratulations, Your Majesty, we have no opponents at the moment. Tianyi's figure appeared beside Li Mingze. No, we still have a bigger threat to deal with. That is the upcoming Zerg. Li Mingze shook his head and said in a heavy tone. According to the literature of the previous generation of civilizations that the Empire has mastered, even civilizations that can build superstructures, such as the Ring World, were eventually crushed by the Zerg in the long river of history. The Empire is still a long way from this level of civilization. I don't know if the Zerg will give us time to develop. Without a strong opponent, our technology will fall into a bottleneck, just like the Davis Security Council. There is no competition, no direction, and we can only rely on our own scientists to slowly develop. Under the situation where we can no longer obtain more advanced technology through war, our empire will also enter this damn bottleneck period. It may take tens of thousands of years for our technology to make great progress. It will take at least thousands of years to catch up with the technology level of the previous generation of civilization. Before that, we have become the nutrients of the Zerg. Li Mingze slammed the table in frustration. He knew that the reason why the empire was able to grow rapidly into the current behemoth in 100 years was because of the accumulation of various coincidences and the empire's continuous defeat of stronger enemies and obtaining more advanced technology from the enemies. Just like the empire's first technological explosion was when he listed scientists as the highest class in the empire. At that time, the empire's enthusiasm for scientific research was unprecedentedly high, and almost everyone's dream was to become a great scientist. The Empire's second technological explosion was when the first opponent was defeated and the consciousness infiltration machine was put into use. People's nighttime was also fully utilized, and they could learn more knowledge using different time flow rates. The third technological explosion of the Empire was when it annexed several civilizations and began to move to a new homeland. During this period, the Empire also obtained the relevant technology of the Singer civilization and the starting point Ring World. The fourth technological explosion of the Empire was when the Empire defeated the Corruptor civilization. The Empire obtained a large amount of mature biotechnology from the Corruptor civilization, which enabled the creation of alien warships and brand new energy-absorbing armor. The fifth technological explosion of the Empire was when it luckily captured the home of the Davis Security Council, and a large amount of advanced technology of the Davis Security Council also fell into the hands of the Empire. And then came the return of the Supreme Scientific Committee of Humanity. The return of the Scientific Committee directly improved the Empire's technology by hundreds and thousands of years, reaching a new height. It was precisely because of the continuous foreign wars that the Empire became stronger in the war, and the large amount of territory obtained through the war provided a strong resource guarantee for the Imperial fleet. And then, In the absence of an enemy that could fight, the Empire would lose the opportunity for technological explosion and could only continue to devour the territory to increase resource reserves. God knows that millions of years have passed, and whether those Zerg have become stronger. Now, let alone the level of the previous generation of civilization, the Empire has not even reached the peak of the scientific committee. Your Majesty, what should we do? Tianyi had no idea about this problem, and could only hope that Mingze could come up with a solution. Tianyi, if you were an underage middle school student, and one day an adult came to bully you, but you knew you couldn't beat him, what would you do? Mingze suddenly asked Tianyi. I would call for help, Tianyi answered tentatively. Ha, Tianyi, you've learned bad things from me. Yes, we should find helpers to beat up this adult together, but we don't know where the people in this universe who can come to help us are, and we don't know if there are any. So, Mingze waved at Tianyi to signal her to listen. There is a solution to this problem, that is, Mingze whispered in Tianyi's ear. Your Majesty, this is not good, you know them. Tianyi covered his mouth in surprise, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. They are them, we are us. In order to ensure that we can survive, we must do everything at all costs, even if we become demons. Mingze seemed to have made up his mind, and gritted his teeth viciously. But your Majesty, can we not kill them? They are at least, Tianyi hesitated. Yes, I will let them spend the rest of their lives in a special prison, but everything they have will be used by me. Mingze nodded. At this moment, a temple emitting faint blue light was floating in the void billions of light years away from the Milky Way. A middle-aged man was playing with a crystal ball in his hand out of boredom. At this moment, the holographic screen next to his seat suddenly flashed red light, and a green human icon disappeared. Hutazer is dead, the middle-aged man frowned. Chapter 477 Universal Federation. After 100,000 years, someone actually dared to kill my child. Although the strong prey on the weak in this universe, it is normal for this waste to be killed, but it is interesting that someone dares to offend our Huta family. The middle-aged man showed a cold smile on his face. However, he was not in a hurry to take revenge. The death of a waste child was nothing to him. You know, now he already has thousands of children, and he has no feelings for them. Let me deal with the annoying things of the Universal Federation, and then I will go to your place. Interesting galaxy. A constantly rotating galaxy emerged in the crystal ball in the middle-aged man's hand. This galaxy is the Milky Way where the Empire is located. After crushing the crystal ball in his hand, the figure of the middle-aged man disappeared in the hall. Soon after, a white boat several meters long flew out of the temple and disappeared into the void. In just a few days, this white boat appeared in the starry sky outside several galaxies. And in front of this white spaceship is an octagonal star-shaped building with a volume of several star systems. This building is the headquarters of the Universal Federation. As the ultimate organization that maintains the order of the universe, the Universal Federation has more power than people can imagine. The Universal Federation is led by the Proteus First Sequence Civilization, which has the longest existence in the universe, and is later formed by 6 super First Sequence civilizations with territories spanning tens of millions or hundreds of millions of galaxies. The only requirement for entering the Universal Federation is to be a First Sequence civilization with 100,000 galaxy-level galaxy territories. In addition to maintaining the balance of the universe and dividing the resources that each civilization should have, the Universal Federation also undertakes to protect primary galaxies from being disturbed by advanced First Sequence civilizations and give these galaxies the opportunity to give birth to low-level First Sequence civilizations. The original Supreme Scientific Committee of Humanity was a civilization that they had observed to be qualified to become a low-level First Sequence civilization, but no one expected that this civilization would actually put its own civilization to sleep. In addition to these, the Universal Federation also acts as a scavenger to eliminate crises that threaten the balance of the universe. The reason why this universe can expand steadily to its current level and has not disappeared in the long river of time and space due to any accident is precisely because of the hard work of the Federation. However, all these things cannot conceal the fact that the Federation is actually a tool established by these advanced first-order civilizations to consolidate the status of their own civilizations. Although the newly promoted low-level first-order civilization can become a first-order civilization, that's all. After becoming a low-level first-order civilization, this civilization will have no chance of promotion because most of the resources in the universe have been monopolized by high-level first-order civilizations. After the mysterious middle-aged man's white spaceship docked at the port of the Federation headquarters, the middle-aged man's figure disappeared again. In the general meeting room of the Cosmic Federation, the middle-aged man's figure appeared on a platform in the corner of the conference room. The area of the entire conference room reached several square kilometers. On the walls of the spherical conference room were protruding platforms, and on these platforms were the intermediate and above first-order civilizations that were qualified to participate in the Federation conference. Silence, silence. A few minutes later, a white ball of light floated onto the platform in the middle of the conference room, and the surrounding noise instantly quieted down. It's not that these civilization leaders know the rules very well, but that the ball of light that appeared in the middle of the conference room is the founder of the Cosmic Federation, the Protus First-Order Civilization, the leader among the 7 top First-Order civilizations. Because they tried to upgrade themselves to 4-dimensional creatures and transcend this 3-dimensional world, this civilization energized their race. Obviously, the promotion failed and this civilization remained in the 3-dimensional space. However, the 4-dimensional space information that their civilization accidentally glimpsed during the promotion made them the closest existence to immortality in this universe. Very good. Recently many civilizations have complained to the Federation about insect infestations in their territories. Those disgusting insects are really annoying to everyone. The theme of our meeting this time is to remove the Zerg's seat in the Federation. If the final result is to agree to remove it, the Zerg will be permanently expelled from the Federation and will never be able to join again. At the same time, civilizations with insect infestations in their territories can go to buy the latest insect removal service launched by Togma Technology. Now let's start voting on expelling the Zerg. The voice of the light ball spread throughout the hall. We agree too. People pressed the voting machines in their hands, and soon the results of the vote were displayed on the monitor. 93% of civilizations chose to expel the Zerg, 4% of civilizations chose to abstain. I hereby declare that the Zerg are officially expelled from the Universal Federation. The light ball slowly read out the voting information. The Zerg representative sitting in the corner saw the voting results, and his pupils shrank. He couldn't believe that their Zerg had become a pest in the universe. It's unfair. Those who attack other countries' territories at will are rebellious Zerg separated from our civilization. You can't expel our Zerg from the Federation just because of this. We real Zerg are still staying in our territory, the Zerg representative argued loudly unwillingly. The voting is over. Your defense is invalid. The light ball disappeared after saying that. You are just eyeing the 300,000 galaxies owned by our Zerg. You are all a bunch of robbers, the Zerg representative roared loudly. At this time, 2 spherical robots covered by light appeared beside the Zerg representative, trapped the Zerg representative, and then disappeared. At this point, we have to mention the rules of the Universal Federation, which is that member civilizations cannot arbitrarily start wars. The decision to start a war must be made through a vote of the General Assembly. Only when more than 1/3 of the votes agree to start a war can 2 member states start a war. This rule is invalid for any civilization that owns more than 100,000 galaxies and is not on the Federation. Galaxies similar to the Milky Way will be collectively referred to as galaxies from now on, and those similar in size to the solar system are called star systems, which is what was adopted in the previous article. In other words, the Zerg expelled from the Federation can be declared war on by any first-order civilization at will. This generally represents the end of a civilization. However, all this has nothing to do with the Zerg that is heading towards the Milky Way. This Zerg is one of the rebellious Zerg that split from the original Zerg. At this time, there are only 120 years left for this Zerg to reach the Milky Way. Chapter 478 Sphere completed. 10 years later. A desolate star system located 100 light-years away from the capital star system of the Sith Empire. This star system is in the heart of the Empire's homeland, but there are no Empire's residential colonies in the surrounding star systems, and there are also several large military fortresses of the Empire around it. This makes this star system the most ideal place to build a Dyson sphere. Once any accident occurs in the Dyson sphere project, it is unlikely to cause too much damage to the Empire, and the surrounding military facilities can also provide it with good protection. In addition, there are no life planets in this star system, so even if the light of the star is blocked, it will not cause devastating damage to the life planet. Therefore, the Empire began to build construction facilities in this star system 11 years ago. After 10 years of uninterrupted construction, the main skeleton of the Dyson sphere was finally completed. Due to the addition of a large number of advanced scientific committee technologies, the construction period was greatly advanced. 5 huge metal rings bound the entire blue star in it. In order to reduce the difficulty of construction, this star, which is only 1/8 the size of the Sun but 1/3 the mass, was specially selected. Between 2 adjacent metal rings, a huge grid can be seen that is connected by ropes of biological materials. Although this grid looks huge, it actually only occupies 1/16 of the surface area of the star. This 1/16 area is the largest area that the Empire can currently manufacture. Unlike the large frame with a simple structure, the cost of special algae that can absorb the light and heat of the star and convert it into energy that the Empire can use is also one of the reasons that restrict the construction of the Dyson sphere. In addition, there is the problem of facilities to extract the energy converted by these algae and connect it to the Empire's energy network. Although the technology library of the Supreme Scientific Committee of Humanity has more advanced energy extraction technology, the cruel reality facing Mingze is that they have no resources to build a more advanced Dyson sphere. The current scientific committee is no longer the committee that ruled the Milky Way at its peak. Hundreds of thousands of years of sleep have consumed a lot of their vitality. So Mingze can only choose to build a backward Dyson sphere, first to provide a lot of energy for his next plan. I believe that once that plan is completed, the Empire will no longer lack resources. Mingze, Tianyi and others came to the star system where the Dyson sphere is located early, waiting for the completion of the first part of the Dyson sphere. Your Majesty, shall we start using the first part of the Dyson sphere? A scientist walked up to Mingze and asked respectfully. Let's start. This will be the first step for our Sith Empire to stand on top of the universe. A gleam of light flashed in Mingze's eyes. After getting Mingze's reply, the scientist stretched out his hand and slid twice on his personal terminal. Suddenly, the Dyson sphere in the distance changed. As hundreds of thousands of transport ships carrying nutrient solution docked their cargo holds on the interface of the Dyson sphere skeleton, countless nutrient solutions began to flow through the pipelines into the huge nutrient tanks built on the skeleton. Some black algae began to grow suddenly after the nutrient solution flowed through. If the lens was zoomed in on the cells of these algae, it would be found that the cells of these algae began to divide wildly after the nutrient solution flowed through. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and 4 became 8. In just a few minutes, these wildly dividing algae extended along the large net composed of biological materials. Thanks to the advanced biotechnology that the Empire obtained from the corruptor civilization, the direction, degree, and quantity of this crazy growth are all controllable, and how they grow has long been written into their genes. These algae will grow according to the goals set in the genes until they completely cover this huge grid area. 5 days later, these algae finally completed their growth. At this time, an area on the Dyson sphere was already covered by black algae, and no light could penetrate it. From a distance, the star looked like a piece of cake that had been cut off, and it was no longer intact. After the growth was completed, the black Dyson algae began to work. The black appearance makes them have a very high absorption rate for light. The light and heat generated by the star are absorbed by these algae and transmitted to the huge bulges on the Dyson sphere skeleton through the internal meridian-like network. At this time, the Empire's robots began to insert energy transmission pipes into the bulges one by one, and a stream of golden energy liquid flowed out of the bulge. The energy liquid produced by compressing these energies to a certain extent is the final product of this Dyson sphere. They will become a member of the surging energy in the Empire's energy network through the converter. Your Majesty, the first phase of the Dyson sphere construction mission has been a complete success. Our Empire can use the large amount of spare energy for various scientific experiments in the future, the scientist next to Mingze said excitedly. How long will it take to complete the remaining 15 phases? Mingze frowned and asked. If one phase takes 10 years, then by the time this Dyson sphere is completed, the Zerg may have already come to his hometown. Because we had no experience to learn from before, everything was moving forward by trial and error, so the progress of the first phase was so slow. Now we have enough experience, and each phase in the future will only take 4 years, the scientist patted his chest and promised. Very good, then I will wait for your good news. At present, I have other uses for the energy generated by the Dyson sphere. Other scientific research departments can relax the energy usage restrictions after the second part is completed. Mingze waved his hand and walked out of the room. As he disconnected his consciousness from the star system where the Dyson sphere was located, Li Mingze woke up again in another desolate star system near the border of the Empire. This star system is very strange. There is only one planet half the size of the Earth and one star half the size of the Sun in the entire star system. On this planet that is only half the size and half the mass of the Earth, a giant hemispherical building that is 10,000 meters high is hanging on an endless plane. This hemispherical building is pure silver throughout, and its smooth surface refracts all the light that shines on it to the side. If you think this is an ordinary building, you are wrong. The outer armor of this building alone is 500 meters thick. Layers of shells made of various alloys and materials are tightly buckled together, completely isolating everything in this building from the outside world. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479, Space-Time Goo Plan. In addition to the heavy outer shell, the building has two shields with energy levels as high as the fearless level, one inside and one outside, which completely separate everything in the building from the outside world. In addition to these protective measures, there are tens of thousands of beam cannons and railguns built on platforms of different heights on the plain outside the building. However, surprisingly, these cannons are all aimed at this huge silver building. Not only that, there is also a disc-shaped space station with a diameter of 10 kilometers in the track above the building. The gravity cannons and super railguns carried by the space station are also aimed at the silver building on the ground. And deep underground on this planet, there is an antimatter bomb taken from the Star Fortress, which will serve as the last insurance. Accompanied by the whistling sound of the thruster jet, the spaceship that Li Mingze was riding slowly landed on a piece of open space outside the silver building. Thousands of fully armed heavy special combat mechas immediately surrounded it and escorted Li Mingze, who was walking down the spaceship escalator, to the gate of the silver building. After Li Mingze stood in a circle, several rays of light of different colors quickly swept across his body. Body structure test passed, gene test passed, soul wave test passed. Welcome, Your Majesty the Great Emperor. With a mechanical sound, the wall armor beside the silver building gates suddenly popped open, revealing two 2-meter-high mechanical combination locks. The combination locks were densely engraved with various numbers, letters, Chinese characters and strokes. To enter a combination disc correctly, a 10-digit password consisting of numbers, letters, symbols, strokes and Chinese characters was required, and the passwords of the two combination locks were completely different. After Li Mingze commanded the two special combat mechas to enter the passwords one by one, the combination disc sank into the wall, and 8 huge metal handles stretched out from the wall. The 8 mechas walked up and started shaking the handles without waiting for Li Mingze's instructions. As the handle was shaken, the heavy metal door slowly opened in both the up and down directions. However, this was not the end. The second door close to the first door began to open to both sides. In this way, 5 doors with different opening methods were opened to reveal the bright corridor behind the door. Li Mingze took the lead and walked into the corridor. He saw high-speed railguns and small beam guns on the corridor, constantly aiming at the people in the corridor. After walking through this 50-meter-long corridor, Li Mingze and others came to a giant elevator. After the elevator slowly sank for dozens of meters, there was another door in front of Li Mingze and others. After opening this door in the same way, there was another elevator after walking through the 50-meter-long corridor. In this way, Li Mingze walked a full 600 meters and finally came to the building. Tens of thousands of rooms of different sizes surrounded the center of the building, a huge hall with a diameter of 2,000 meters. When Li Mingze came to the control room around the hall again through the heavy protection, thousands of scientists had all arrived and were busy running around at their posts. At this time, Li Mingze saw 3 rings of different sizes hanging by dozens of mechanical arms in the hall. Your Majesty, you are finally here. At this time, Yang Yunfei, the chief scientist and person in charge of the base, trotted over to greet him. All preparations are ready, and now we are waiting for your order. Yang Yunfei made a gesture of invitation and followed Li Mingze into the hall. Is the energy provided by the Dyson sphere enough? Li Mingze asked the chief scientist Yang Yunfei as he walked. Not enough. Although it only reached half of our expectations, the plan can still be implemented smoothly, Yang Yunfei replied hurriedly. It's okay to implement it. The rise and fall of the Empire depends on this. Li Mingze nodded and came to the seat prepared for him. After seeing Li Mingze sitting down, many scientists also returned to their seats. The Space Goo plan is about to start. All staff members should wear protective equipment immediately, Chief Scientist Yang Yunfei shouted, and everyone fastened their seat belts and put on a pair of sunglasses that could adjust the light. Your Majesty, has the plan been implemented? Yang Yunfei asked Li Mingze in a low voice. Have the Biochemical Prevention Program, Electromagnetic Protection Program, Soul Protection Program, and Special Life Form Protection Program been fully activated? Li Mingze did not answer, but asked instead. All have been activated. Your Majesty, please be careful. No matter what escapes, it will never escape from here. Yang Yunfei nodded affirmatively. Very good, let's get started. Li Mingze also put on his glasses. At this time, 10 special forces wearing the most advanced power armor of the Empire came to the center of the hall with huge backpacks on their backs. Following closely behind them was a special force composed of robot mechas, special warfare mechas, Imperial Marines, and aliens. This special force dispersed and stood in a circle around the walls of the hall, with all kinds of weapons in their hands aimed at the position where the 10 special forces stood in the hall. And from the walls around the hall, there were also weapons with different uses, such as flamethrowers that could spray high-temperature flames and small antimatter launchers that could purify everything. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. The space-time Goo plan begins. With Yang Yunfei's shout, cylindrical protective shields began to rise under the seats of many scientists, wrapping everyone safely in them. Then, layers of shields began to rise in the hall, isolating the hall from the control room surrounding the hall. Then, the mechanical arm above the hall began to lower the 3 rings to the center of the room. 2 seconds later, the 3 rings began to rotate continuously, and a trace of light began to flicker between the 3 rings. Suddenly, a dazzling light flashed, and the special operations team in the center of the hall disappeared. The space-time leakage energy recovery device is operating normally, the space-time coordinate locator is operating normally, and the space-time coordinate time calibrator is operating normally. All levels of protection measures are operating normally. Begin to calculate the space-time coordinate point and the estimated time for the special operations team to go. As the voices were read out, streams of data began to flash on the holographic screen in front of Li Mingze. The coordinates have been calculated. The coordinates of the Special Operations Team are PX0003W Universe. The approximate time is 4520 in the Sith calendar. The team is expected to return in 6 days. The broadcast voice disappeared, but many scientists did not relax, but continued to stare at their screens. Chapter 480 Parallel Universe PX0003W. There was originally only one universe, and outside of it were 3-dimensional particles that formed this dimension. When a person in a universe wanted to travel through time and space and break through the time and space wall of this universe, a parallel universe was born. This parallel universe was copied from the original main universe by 3-dimensional particles from the moment the person who tried to travel through the long river of time set out. However, all universes were separated from the original universe at the moment they were separated, and they maintained their own time running speed. In other words, even 2 completely identical parallel universes have different times. When a person breaks out of a universe, time no longer exists. When he enters a parallel universe, he enters a different time dimension of the parallel universe. In other words, the so-called time travel is nothing more than going to different universes with different time flow speeds. The PX0003W universe is the 3rd universe that has been continuously split since the Empire received the pseudo-time and space message generated by the Zerg piercing the time and space wall and letting the message go around outside for a circle. Every time the space-time wall is broken, a parallel space-time will be born, because the future has changed. The message received by the Empire is no longer the message in the original universe. For example, the Empire originally planned to do this, but the Zerg sent a false message to the Empire by piercing the space-time wall in order to prevent the Empire from doing so. The future of the Empire has changed at the moment the space-time wall was pierced. The time of the split of this universe is exactly when the Empire received the future message for the first time, and the parallel universe that was split received another parallel universe that received the future message. And because the speed of time running between universes is different, although the main universe where Li Mingze is located has only spent a few decades, thousands of years have passed in this universe, dividing line. In the ruins of a city, accompanied by a flash of light, 10 Imperial Special Forces appeared in the open space of the ruins. Start to determine our current coordinates. Number 02 to number 06 go to the surrounding highlands to be responsible for vigilance, and number 07 goes to install the galaxy coordinate detector. Number 08, 09, and 10, you are responsible for searching all useful information around. Captain 01 ordered his 9 men. As clones specially created for this mission, these 10 special forces have no names but code names. Not only that, they are loyal to the memory of the Empire. The purpose of doing this is to prevent the existence of something that can read memories in the parallel universe they arrive at from exposing the true strength of the Sith Empire. Everyone immediately dispersed to perform their respective tasks, and Captain 01 began to assemble a detection drone. A few minutes later, number 07, who was responsible for the galaxy coordinate detector, came to the captain from the top floor of a building ruin. Report to the captain, the galaxy coordinates have been determined, and we are currently on the Sith Star. Number 07 answered hesitantly. Sith Star, the captain frowned and sent the drone in his hand into the sky. As the drone flew higher and higher, this city made of ruins also appeared in front of everyone. Record the data. In addition, you disperse to find all useful information. Once captured, self-destruct immediately. The captain solemnly issued a death order to his subordinates. No matter why Sith Star became what it is now, they must not be captured by unknown enemies. Yes, sir. Many soldiers quickly dispersed, and Captain 01 also embarked on a journey to find the stories buried under the ruins. After walking through the ruins, number 01 came to a building that looked relatively intact. There was nothing left in this building, and all the furniture and other items had been annihilated into dust in the long river of time. Just as number 01 was about to leave in disappointment, there was a sudden sound from under the floor. Number 01 was startled, rolled on the ground and aimed his rifle at the floor that had just made the sound. Who is it? Come out, number 01 roared loudly, but everything returned to calm, as if nothing had ever happened. Number 01, who didn't believe in evil, came to the floor where the sound had just been made, blew away the dust on the floor with a propeller, and then carefully searched. Start the scanning system. As he muttered to himself, a green light swept across the floor, and a passage extending to the underground appeared on number 1's holographic display. Switching the rifle to cutting mode, number 01 cut a hole in the floor that could accommodate him. As the metal floor fell into the tunnel with a dull thump, number 01 jumped into the tunnel. After turning on all the lights on his body, number 01 began to walk forward cautiously in one direction. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sound of breaking air behind him, and a low-quality metal dagger was held in his hand. Only then did he see the appearance of the attacker clearly. A dirty girl. Who are you and why did you attack me? Number 01 stretched out his hand to control the girl and asked loudly. Wait, Chinese. And the old-style power armor of the Empire. Are you a soldier of the Sith Empire? The girl suddenly spoke in fluent Chinese. Who are you? How do you know I'm from the Sith Empire? Number 01 was shocked. There was no Imperial symbol engraved on their armor. I am a member of the EVA resistance. Actually, I'm a robot, the girl said, lifting the skin on her face to reveal the metal armor inside. EVA resistance? Robot? Do you have anyone else? Number 01 asked puzzled. Unexpectedly, the girl's eyes suddenly became sharp, and her expression was full of defense. Why are you asking these questions? Are you trying to find out where we are hiding and then kill us? The girl's face showed an angry expression. No, I have no ill intentions. I am indeed a soldier of the Sith Empire. We were sent to carry out rescue work. Of course, number 01 would not tell the truth. Rescue work? Did the Empire disappear? Did His Majesty secretly launch other arcs? But it's too late. We have been destroyed for more than 100 years. Only our EVA resistance is left on this planet. The girl shook her head and sighed. No matter what, I hope you can tell us everything that happened on the Sith planet. Number 01 released the hand that trapped the girl, but did not let down his guard. Aren't you here to rescue? I am the one you need to rescue. Take me away first. Only when I am sure that you are really soldiers of the Sith Empire, I will tell you the location of the other sisters. The girl put the dagger back into her waist. Chapter 481 Return to the main universe. Follow me. Number 01 nodded and turned to walk out. Just as the two were about to leave the tunnel, A huge explosion suddenly sounded on the street outside, and then the green symbol representing number 8 on the holographic screen in front of number 01 disappeared. What happened? Why did number 8 explode? Number 01 hurriedly connected the communication with the others. I don't know, sir. We have been completely scattered and don't know what number 8 has experienced. The answers of the others came intermittently on the communicator. They are coming. The girl suddenly pressed number 1's shoulder and pointed to the ground. They? Number 01 asked, puzzled. Yes, after destroying the Sith Empire, these people left a large number of drones that can replicate and split on our planet. The usual task of these drones is to find and eliminate survivors and help them find something, the girl said angrily, gritting her teeth. What do they mean? And what are they looking for? Number 01 asked puzzledly. It seems that the truth about the destruction of the Sith Empire in this universe is about to be revealed. They are the lackeys and thugs of the Universal Federation. They specialize in helping the Federation secretly deal with things that are inconvenient for them to do. They want to find something here, but I don't know what it is. I don't know where His Majesty Li Mingze has hidden it. The girl shook her head. After hiding in the tunnel for a few minutes, number 01 quietly threw out a spherical drone. But before the image seen by the drone camera was transmitted back, the floor above the two people's heads was lifted up by two mechanical arms. When the two people reacted, dozens of black spherical drones had surrounded them tightly. These spherical drones seemed to be equipped with anti-gravity engines. They just floated quietly in the air. At the same time, the front facing the two people was flashing blue light. Obviously some kind of weapon was about to be ready. This is a communicator that can contact other team members. Find them and let them take you back to the Empire. You must tell everything that happened here without reservation. Number 01 stretched out his hand to untie the jet backpack on his back and attach it to the girl's body. As the jetpack ejected a stream of air, the girl was launched directly, and number 01 pressed the self-destruct button on his arm. In the blink of an eye, a violent white light enveloped the group of drones, and violent shock waves spread out in all directions. When the dust cleared, the drones showed up intact. Obviously, the destructive power generated by number 1's self-destruction just now did not hurt these drones. Fortunately, the energy generated by the explosion interfered with the detection system of these drones, and the girl was able to successfully escape from these drones. Unlike ordinary girls, this girl, as the offspring of Eva, that is, a new individual split out, obviously did not have the hypocrisy of a human girl. She knew what was most important at the moment, such as finding the rescue team that was said to be from the Sith Empire and telling them everything that happened here. The explosion just now successfully awakened the group of drones that were looking for something in the ruins, and drones rose into the air from the ruins. Looking around, the sky above the entire city was covered by these dense drones, accompanied by 7 dull explosions and shock waves. The 8 flashing green icons on the terminal in the girl's hand kept going out until only one was left. At this time, no matter how stupid the girl was, she knew that there was only one person left out of the 10 rescue teams of the Sith Empire. Although she didn't know how these people broke through the blockade of the drone group in the planet's orbit and came here, and she didn't know why they only sent 10 people, but she knew that this last person might be her hope. The girl's petite body kept shuttling through the ruins, using the wreckage to block the view of the drones in the air. At this time, her advantage as a robot was revealed. She didn't feel tired, and because she was made of high-grade nanomaterials, her body did not emit an energy, which also made several devices that could penetrate objects for scanning useless. These drones could only find her moving at high speed through the optical observation system. As the girl got closer and closer to the last special warfare soldier marked on the terminal, a lake flashing green light appeared in front of her. These greens were not luminous plants or minerals, but radioactive liquid leaked after a special factory in the Empire was destroyed. When the girl desperately thought that the system was wrong, a black shadow emerged from the green radioactive liquid. After the shadow opened the mask, a pale face was revealed. You are the artificial intelligence that the captain told us before he died. Only the drones here cannot detect it. We need to hide here and hold on until the time comes. The last survivor, number 03, actually had no idea when the space-time channel would open again. He walked out of the lake helplessly and sank the girl into the green lake. 10 days have passed, and number 03 has survived until now, relying on the high-concentration nutrient solution built into the power armor of the Special Forces. Alarm! Spatial energy fluctuations are detected, and the space-time channel is about to open. Please return to your original place immediately. Just when number 03 was about to despair, the system prompt sounded suddenly, like the sound of nature. Number 03 took the girl's hand and rushed to the lake. The two did not stop. After landing, they went straight to the place where they came from. At this time, the drones had already discovered the two people running fast in the ruins, and groups of drones rushed towards the two. When number 03 and the girl were about to be caught up by the drone group, a dazzling white light ball suddenly appeared in the open space in front of them. Number 03 took the girl's hand and jumped into the dazzling ball of light. A drone following behind them also rushed into the ball of light. Just when the other drones wanted to follow, the ball of light disappeared from the spot, and several drones hit nothing. Number 03 rolled on the ground holding the girl's body for a few rounds and stopped in the open space in the transmission hall, gasping for breath. The drone that followed them through the ball of light also rushed into the hall. However, it was captured by the base host the moment it appeared. Dozens of restraining beams shot down from the walls and ceiling around the hall, firmly fixing the drone in the air. Chapter 482 PX0003W The History of the Universe. At this time, the special combat mechas left in the hull by the Empire began to fire continuously at the energy transmitter in front of the drone, and the weapons on the wall also spewed out flames at the same time. In the blink of an eye, the shield of the drone was torn apart by the concentrated fire of many weapons, and the energy transmitter in front of the drone was also destroyed. The drone seemed to have lost power, and the lights on its body gradually dimmed until it disappeared. The invasion threat has been lifted, and the recovery team will recover and study the wreckage of the invader later. The isolation team has also isolated the survivors of the special combat team and the unidentified robots to ensure that there will be no problems, Yang Yunfei reported in a low voice behind Li Mingze. There is only one special combat team left. Equipped with the most advanced power armor of the Empire, it can still suffer such high combat losses. It seems that the universe is not safe, Li Mingze said lightly while standing in front of the French windows surrounding the teleportation hall. Through the windows on the second floor of the hall, everything in the teleportation hall can be seen. That's right, this so-called time and space goo plan is a plan to plunder resources and technology from another parallel universe by traveling through time and space. According to the information that Li Mingze from another time and space told him, there should be countless universes in this world, and there are countless Li Mingze in these parallel universes. His plan is to integrate all the Sith Empires of Li Mingze by invading other universes. Since his Sith Empire alone may not be able to deal with the upcoming Zerg, he will kill all the other selves and take the Sith Empires of those universes into his pocket. Of course, when he said to kill them, he actually planned to send all these Li Mingzes to a special prison and let these Li Mingzes from other time and space spend the rest of their lives in the virtual world. In these virtual worlds, these Li Mingzes will continue to develop until they rule the universe. Being able to spend the rest of his life happily and carefree is the best compensation that Li Mingze can give to himself and other universes. Although there are some moral issues in doing so, in order for his own Sith Empire to survive in this cruel universe, he will do anything, but it is just a different perspective. According to his calculations, because the speed of time between universes is different, it means that there will be Sith Empires weaker than his Sith Empire. It also means that there are Sith Empires that are as powerful as his empire, or more powerful than his empire. These Sith Empires represent inexhaustible resources and various levels of technology. Some of those Sith Empires may have only developed technology for hundreds of years, but some may have advanced technology for tens of thousands of years. However, if the other party is too advanced, Li Mingze will not try to go to this universe. Compared with increasing strength, his life is more important. After 2 days of isolation, after confirming that the Special Forces survivors and the unidentified robot were not a threat, the two were sent to a special isolation room to prepare to meet His Majesty the Emperor. After wearing a specially made thickened power armor, Li Mingze was escorted by several soldiers to the isolation inspection room next to the transmission room. At this time, the robot girl had come to the isolation inspection room and sat down. The Special Forces members knew exactly what steps they would go through after returning, so they had no complaints. But the girl was different. She finally passed through a wormhole-like hole and came to a seemingly safe place. Before she had time to catch her breath, she was imprisoned. How could she not be angry? As a robot, she would not carry any deadly virus. This isolation was meaningless. I heard that you are an individual split from Eva, Just as the girl kicked the ground angrily, Li Mingze appeared in the interrogation room, and the alloy door behind him slowly closed under the push of the soldiers. Yes, I also heard that you are the rescue team sent by the Sith Empire. The girl looked at Li Mingze, who was wearing heavy armor, with doubtful eyes. Li Mingze chuckled and opened the mask on his helmet, revealing his face under the mask. Your Majesty the Emperor, the girl, who was still a little wary, suddenly screamed loudly. Yes, let me introduce myself. I am Li Mingze, the first emperor of the Sith Empire. Li Mingze sat on the chair in front of the girl. You were not killed by the enemy's atomic annihilation cannon in the Third Patriotic War. The girl covered her mouth in disbelief. No, that's just what happened in your universe. I should be Li Mingze from the main universe, and the Sith Empire is also the Sith Empire of the main universe. Li Mingze shook his head and explained. Parallel universe, could it be that you traveled through space and came to our universe? The girl was shocked, and her worldview was somewhat overturned. Yes, the place you are in now is the time and space transmission center of the Empire. Tell me what has happened in your universe since 2050. Li Mingze nodded and made a listening gesture. Our universe, the girl chuckled. In our universe, my creator, my mother Eva, led our mechanical fleet to sweep across half of the Milky Way, until we encountered the Sith Empire, which occupied the other half of the universe. When we, the two strongest forces occupying the top of the Milky Way, were about to go to war, the Zerg invaded, under the tactics of our mechanical fleet's endless sea of ships and the various advanced weapons of the Empire. Although we suffered heavy losses, we still successfully repelled the Zerg. Those Zerg retreated into the void, but we and the Sith Empire had been dragged to the brink of collapse by the war. In the 2600th year of the Sith calendar, my mother and the Emperor of the Sith Empire married the two strongest civilizations in the Milky Way, and the Sith Empire was the only one left in the entire Milky Way, and all the remaining civilizations became our vassals. As time passed, our Sith Empire gradually recovered its vitality, and various facilities in the Milky Way were rebuilt. We set our sights on the neighboring galaxies around the Milky Way. We thought at the time that the Sith Empire's road to conquering the starry sky had just begun, but who would have thought that on the day we left the Milky Way and arrived at the neighboring galaxy, we would be exposed to the side of the Universal Federation? At this time, something happened that changed the fate of the Empire. Our Emperor developed a device that could communicate with the future out of boredom. For some unknown reason, this special technology that no civilization in the entire universe could have researched was born in the hands of the weak Sith Empire. Do you know what the consequences will be if something that the entire universe can envy is exposed? The girl said here and looked at Li Mingze. Chapter 483, Cosmic Hierarchy and Atomic Robots. Destruction. Li Mingze fell silent after saying that. That's right, destruction. The secret of our invention of this time-space shuttle was obtained by a spy from a first-order civilization lurking in the Empire. This first-order civilization controls more than 10 million galaxies that are about the same size as the Milky Way, and they even control many galaxy clusters that are far larger than the Milky Way. Originally, this first-order civilization did not take the small and backward Milky Way seriously, and sent this spy just for routine surveillance. Who knew that they would get such shocking news? This first-order civilization is one of the main member states of the Universal Federation. In order to prevent the news from leaking out, they secretly assigned a low-level first-order civilization to destroy us, but with the strength of our Sith Empire, even in front of this low-level first-order civilization acting as a thug, our empire is as weak as a child. Without any suspense, our Sith Empire's fleet was pushed flat by their fleet, and the time-space shuttle was also taken to the grave by His Majesty the Emperor. Oh, sorry, His Majesty the Emperor of our universe. They didn't find the time shuttle, so the first-order civilization unwillingly spread countless drones that can split and reproduce themselves in the Milky Way to search for them, and our EVA Resistance Army are brand new individuals that split off from our mother before she was destroyed. The Empire handed over the remaining equipment and resources to us, and we shoulder the heavy responsibility of rebuilding the Sith Empire. The girl sighed. Li Mingze guessed it without her saying anything. Judging from the current situation, that these resistance forces have been struggling to survive in the tunnels for more than 100 years, the task of rebuilding the Sith Empire is impossible to accomplish. Just when Li Mingze was about to continue asking, Tianyi's voice suddenly sounded in the communicator. Your Majesty, the recycling department has made a major discovery, and they hope you can go there. Li Mingze nodded gently and stood up. Be patient for a while, and you can leave the isolation cabin in a few days." Li Mingze patted the girl on the shoulder and walked out of the isolation room. A few minutes later, in the different space items recycling department not far from the isolation room, Li Mingze and a group of scientists wearing chemical power armor stood next to a disassembled sphere. "Your Majesty, you should take a look at this." A scientist pushed an electronic magnifying glass next to the sphere, and some pictures began to appear on the holographic screen next to it. The dense black dots in the picture formed a rolling wave. As the lens zoomed in again, a black robot appeared on the screen. As you can see, the surface of this spherical robot is not a smooth metal plane, and this drone is not a hole. It is composed of countless atomic-sized robots. These robots can imitate different atoms to form different materials and structures, and these robots can be replicated infinitely. After the scientist finished speaking, he controlled a mechanical arm covered with a protective stand to throw an iron ingot into the experimental warehouse where the drone was stored. Dozens of thin black lines suddenly extended from the drone that was disassembled in half. After these black lines wrapped the iron ingot thrown in, they began to swallow it continuously. After just a few dozen minutes, the iron ingot disappeared, and the drone, which was originally only half a sphere, actually slightly increased its body. You see, these robots can split unlimitedly by swallowing metal. They can constantly replicate themselves, turning one drone into hundreds of millions of drones in a short period of time, or allowing drones to complete self-repair. But we have discovered a flaw in this type of drone. That is, these robots can only imitate the materials they swallowed. If they want to form the reactor, weapon module, and detection module of the drone, they need to swallow different metals and materials. The iron ingot we just swallowed for it cannot be used to repair its reactor and other modules, so they only use the iron ingot to repair the outer shell of the drone. According to my calculations, all kinds of metal materials can be found on the Sith Star in another time and space. Which is why these drones are so powerful. If it is an environment with scarce resources, the combat effectiveness of these drones will be greatly reduced. Even with these shortcomings, if we can master the technology of this atomic robot, Your Majesty, do you know what it means? The scientist's eyes were shining when he said this. It means that our warships can quickly repair themselves after being damaged. It means that when material transmission cannot be carried out, our fleet can also obtain supplies on the spot on other planets. Li Mingze thought of the most critical point, and his eyes began to shine. That's right, if this technology can be further improved, even if our future warships are broken by the enemy, as long as they are given time, our warships can also self-repair and return to their original state. Another scientist also interrupted excitedly. Very good, immediately reverse crack this atomic robot. I hope to see this technology applied to our fleet as soon as possible. You can mobilize the research resources of the Imperial Royal Academy of Sciences. Recently, they have been absorbing the technology of the Science Committee and are very idle. Li Mingze clapped his hands and ordered everyone. After dealing with the relevant matters of the recycling department, Li Mingze immediately returned to the isolation cabin. He still had many questions to ask. By the way, seal the PX0003W universe. No one is allowed to enter this space-time again without my order. This space-time is too dangerous. Let's wait until the day when we have the ability to find the hidden treasures in this space-time. Li Mingze, who was walking, thought of something and told Tianyi beside him. Yes, the PX0003W universe has been classified as a level 4 dangerous universe. No one is allowed to open it without your order. Tianyi nodded. As for the classification of parallel universes, before the space-time goo plan was launched, Li Mingze considered the possible high-risk universes, so he divided each universe into 5 levels. The first level universe is a universe without any danger. The Empire's strength can crush it. This kind of universe is a treasure trove of resources specially prepared for the Empire. For example, in the early stage of the formation of the universe, there were not many advanced civilizations, and the parallel universe was generated by the abnormal movement of space-time. The second-level universe is a universe with the same strength as the Empire. The Empire can secretly take down this kind of universe as long as it acts carefully. The danger of this kind of universe is not great. The third-level universe is a civilization that has the ability to control the galaxy. The Empire has a chance to conquer it through hard work. Although this kind of universe is dangerous, it is also full of opportunities. Chapter 484: The Beginning of Unifying the Galaxy. The universe of PX0003W is the 4th-level universe. The 4th level universe means that the threats in this universe have greatly exceeded the threat level that the Empire can deal with. The high degree of danger of this universe makes Mingze have no idea of trying. Generally, there must be a civilization that controls more than tens of thousands of galaxies in this universe. The 5th level universe is the top existence on the universe classification table. The danger level of this universe is far greater than that of the 4th level universe. The universe of this level should have mastered the technology of reverse time travel. Not only that, in Mingze's imagination, this level of universe should have a civilization close to the unified universe. The 4th and 5th level universes are not easy to help for the current Sith Empire. It is the level of universe that Mingze least wants to encounter. A few minutes later, Mingze returned to the isolation room where the girl was. Come on, let's continue. Mingze sat back in his chair. You're back so soon. I thought you would be gone for a few days, the girl shrugged. I don't know your name yet. Also, do you have anything to ask us? Mingze already knew what he was concerned about. He was now thinking about how to deal with this little girl created by Eva. My name is Yi01. I am the first individual created by Lady Eva. I want to know what year it is in the Sith calendar now, and how strong you are now. Can you help us get revenge and bring my other sisters here? Yi01 asked a series of questions and then looked at Mingze expectantly. I01, Eva is still so bad at naming. As for what year it is now, it is the 2115th year of the Sith calendar. Our current strength is far less than that of the Sith Empire in your universe. We have not even taken over 5% of the Milky Way, so our strength is limited now. Not only can we not help you get revenge, but even the passage to the PX0003W universe will not be opened again in a short time. Our current strength can't even beat the drone swarm they released in the Milky Way, let alone. Mingze sighed. His desire to strengthen the Empire became stronger. He would never allow his empire to repeat the mistakes of the Sith Empire in other universes. I understand, let me be quiet. I01 also sighed. His expression became extremely frustrated. You now have two choices. One is to be responsible for the logistics of the Time and Space Shuttle Center, and the other is to be her deputy beside your creator Eva. I will give you 2 days. Mingze got up and left the isolation room, leaving I01 silent. Mingze returned to the office and was pulled into the conference room by several fleet commanders and government officials before he had time to rest. After Mingze sat down, these people sat down in their seats. At this time, Monica stood up and slowly said under the encouragement of several people's eyes, Your Majesty, the strength of our fleet now is far beyond the empire of 15 years ago. After absorbing the technology of the Science Committee, we can basically be said to be the top existence in the known galaxy area. In this case, I think it's time for us to start conquering this beautiful galaxy. Let us take this beautiful galaxy into the Empire's pocket. It's time for us to build a unified galaxy empire. Monica threw the pie out in an excited tone. What do you think? Mingze looked around at everyone. Ms. Monica's opinion is our opinion. Many officers and officials looked at Mingze expectantly. Actually, I have had this idea for a long time, to completely unify the Milky Way, and then continue to expand to the surrounding galaxies, but after something happened, I had to change my mind. The current empire cannot be too ostentatious, and we can't just unify the Milky Way like this. Once we complete the unification of the Milky Way, we will fall under the surveillance of the Universal Federation, which will be very unfavorable for some of our next actions. Mingze paused and continued, Our next step is to establish a galactic alliance. We will be open to all weak civilizations and form a huge family. Of course, this alliance will only last until my plan succeeds. Once my plan succeeds, the Milky Way will belong only to our Sith Empire, and anyone who dares to stand in our way will be crushed. At that time, our eyes should be on the countless galaxies and galaxy clusters farther away. Our only goal is this universe. Do you have the confidence to stand at the top of this universe with the Sith Empire and become the supreme existence in this universe? Mingze stood up and shouted loudly. We are confident that we will swear allegiance to His Majesty until death and shed our last drop of flesh and blood for the Empire. Everyone hurriedly stood up and saluted and said loudly. Very good. Next we will order the Sith Empire's homeland, the Asteroid C Star region, the New Human Federation Star region, the Davis Star region, the Corruptor Star region, and the Science Committee Star region to begin to expand to the surrounding areas with all their strength. Don't miss a single planet. All life planets must be colonized. Even if only a few hundred people can be colonized, colonies must be established on life planets. All planets that are not habitable should be sent probes and satellites. We must always keep an eye on the latest developments of these planets. Also, start encouraging the citizens of the Empire to carry out colonization activities. Anyone who agrees to colonize can obtain 100 square kilometers of land in the colony. They will own these lands for life and can pass them on for 2 generations. Mingze gritted his teeth and made a ruthless move. He didn't believe that these people would be willing to stay at home with such temptation. Also, for any new planets discovered starting tomorrow, the tax rate for mining companies in the Empire will be halved, and the same applies to factories built on them. Not only that, we will also build infrastructure for them, material transfer stations, which can greatly reduce their construction costs. Private companies that build colonies on newly discovered planets can get a 60% refund of the colony's taxes. Mingze once again threw out a ruthless move. Under the temptation of huge benefits, a large number of companies in the Empire will definitely be willing to transfer their employees to new planets. At that time, their factories will not only be able to reduce a lot of taxes, but also be able to obtain cheaper raw materials. They can also intercept 60% of the taxes on the colonies established by their employees. Mingze believes that it won't take many years for the seeds of the Empire to spread all over the Milky Way. Chapter 485, The Galactic Alliance and the Principality of Hughes. Inside a huge space station built on the orbit of a habitable planet satellite. Dear citizens of the Principality of Hughes, we are now at the celebration site for the first destroyer of the Principality that will be officially put into service. The majestic yellow warship in front of the camera is the latest warship that our scientists have spent decades researching, the Messenger-class destroyer. This warship is 800 meters long, comparable to an aircraft carrier on our planet. The official commissioning of this Messenger-class destroyer means that our Principality will begin to truly set foot in the starry sky, and our Principality will conquer the sea of stars, a female host excitedly explained to the camera, and behind her, a warship the size of an imperial frigate was floating above the airport. As a low-level civilization that had just left its planet for 200 years, the Principality of Hughes spent 100 years developing its own parent star system by relying on sublight-speed flight. Then their scientists discovered the existence of hyperspace in an accidental experiment. Then, the first hyperspace engine of the Principality of Hughes was researched. After 100 years of continuous research, the Hughes Principality has not only reduced the cost of the hyperspace engine to the point where it can be fully equipped, but also used the hyperspace engine to colonize several neighboring Proxima star systems. Look, everyone, His Majesty the King personally attended the commissioning ceremony of the Messenger-class destroyer. The host suddenly raised his voice and pointed the camera at the King of the Principality, who was walking not far away. The bloated king was seen holding his beautiful wife and walking to the middle of the port platform under the escort of a group of soldiers. My dear citizens, without your support, our Hughes Principality would not have come this far. I hope that in my lifetime, I can lead the Hughes Principality to conquer this vast starry sky. Long live the Hughes Principality. His Majesty the King walked to the center of the square and raised the scepter in his hand. Unexpectedly, when the scepter was raised high in the air, countless lightning suddenly appeared at the position where the scepter was facing. A super fleet composed of thousands of warships appeared diagonally above the space station. This super fleet consists of a silver giant ship and 2,000 large warships, each of which is much larger than the Messenger-class warship they just built. Unlike the yellow warships of the Hughes Principality, all the warships of this fleet that suddenly appeared were silver, reflecting beautiful and dazzling light. After discovering this fleet, the weapons of the space station did not open fire. Because their king was still in the space station. And the possibility that a civilization that can build such a large warship is a mere decoration is very small. Your Majesty, what should we do? The officer next to the king asked in a low voice. Now the square was silent. All the people and senior officials were shocked by the appearance of the fleet and could not speak. Since these warships did not attack when they appeared, they must be able to make contact. Immediately summon the linguists, psychologists, and biologists in the country to form a negotiation team. We are ready to make contact with them. The king pretended to be calm, but in fact he was panicking now. Just by his visual estimation, the smallest warship in this fleet was more than 1 kilometer long. The largest warship was almost 3 kilometers long. What a concept! The smallest warship of the other side was nearly twice the size of the latest Courier-class warship manufactured by the Principality, and the other side had as many as 2,000 warships of this level. A few hours later, the scientists who were urgently summoned gathered together and boarded a micro-spaceship. As the micro-transport ship flew into the sky, the fleet in space did not attack, but a warship flew out of the fleet to greet it. "Sir, the other side asked us to stop here," the driver of the micro-transport ship suddenly said to an officer sitting in the cabin behind. "Damn, these aliens are so cautious. In this way, even if we want to take the initiative, we can't mix in the spaceship loaded with nuclear weapons." The officer hesitated for a moment and made a decision. "Listen to them and stop here." The micro-transport ship turned off the engine and stopped in the air. At this time, a micro-spaceship suddenly flew out from the belly of the warship separated from the fleet, but the size of this micro-spaceship was larger than the micro-transport ship of the Hughes Principality. After the airlocks of the two ships were docked together, the alloy door of the airlock slowly opened, and the Hughes Principality's negotiation team walked into the ship sent by the unknown fleet. To their surprise, there was no one in the ship, and it was completely dependent on the ship's intelligent brain automatic driving. It seemed that the other party cherished even the life of a soldier, fearing that they would carry out a suicide attack. The unmanned spacecraft brought these people to the separated warship, and when the airlock door opened again, the negotiating team finally saw the true face of this civilized creature. Hundreds of robots holding heavy weapons stood on both sides of the ship's hatch, and behind these robots were special combat mechas. These weapons that were still accumulating energy and emitting blue light put heavy pressure on the Hughes Principality's negotiation team. "Hello, we are the Hughes Principality's negotiation team. May I ask who you are?" An officer headed by the Hughes Principality's negotiation team extended his right hand to the three soldiers who were walking over, ready to shake hands with them one by one. But what embarrassed him was that the three people who came over did not show any sign of shaking hands with him, leaving his hand hanging in the air. Seeing that no one shook hands, he hurriedly and awkwardly withdrew his hand and touched his nose, and kept comforting himself in his heart that maybe the etiquette of these people's meeting was not to shake hands. "We are the Sith Empire. We are here for only one purpose, to let all civilizations far away from the core of the Galactic Alliance join the big family of the Galactic Alliance. This is the invitation letter of your civilization. We will only stay here for 2 days. If you don't give a clear answer, we will assume that you refuse to join the Alliance." The man led by the three soldiers handed a tablet to the officers of the Hughes Principality. "Remember, our Sith Empire is the supreme ruler of the Milky Way. Once you join the Galactic Alliance, you cannot have any objections to the rule of the Empire. And you must recognize the legitimacy and rationality of the Empire's rule. Once you join the Galactic Alliance, you can no longer withdraw. Please think carefully, the benefits of joining us and the conditions that must be obeyed are already written on the tablet. I hope you can read it carefully." After the soldier finished speaking, he turned and left, leaving the Hughes Principality negotiation team stunned. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486, Conditions for Joining the Galactic Alliance. That's right, this fleet is the integrated fleet sent out by the Empire. These fleets are basically composed of 2,000 destroyers and a cruiser. There are as many as 5,000 integrated fleets departing from various star regions of the Empire. The purpose of these fleets is simple, to make all the civilizations encountered along the way join the Galactic Alliance established by the Empire. When encountering an ownerless planet, they will leave probes and flags to show that this is the inherent territory of the Sith Empire. The Milky Way is so big that it is beyond people's imagination. The entire Milky Way contains nearly 300 million star systems. And less than 10,000 of these star systems can breed civilizations. In other words, large tracts of land in the entire Milky Way are in an ownerless state, although a large number of star systems have almost no important resources or the mineral veins are too small and scattered to be worth developing. But these ownerless star systems have been the inherent territory of the Empire since the day the Galactic Alliance was established. As the highest leading civilization in the Milky Way, there is nothing wrong with the ownerless star systems automatically becoming the territory of the Empire. Any civilization that dares to say no has been thoroughly cleaned up by the Empire's cleaning forces, composed of battleships and dreadnoughts. The territories of those opponents instantly became part of the Empire's inherent territory. The fleet that the Hughes Principality encountered was one of the 5,000 fleets sent by the Empire. Due to the popularization of the manned ship integration technology, although this fleet seems huge, it only needs less than 10,000 Imperial soldiers, with an average of only 4 people on each 1,400-meter-long warship. The members of the Principality's negotiation team who received the invitation looked at each other and had no choice but to turn around and take the spaceship back to the space station. On that day, all senior officials, officers and famous scientists of the Hughes Principality were summoned to the conference room of the space station. As the soldiers closed the door of the conference room tightly, the meeting concerning the future fate of the Hughes Principality began. The content of the tablet was projected onto the east wall of the conference room. The first thing that came into view was the introduction of the Galactic Alliance. The Galactic Alliance is a multi-civilization joint organization in the galaxy established by the Sith Empire. The Sith Empire serves as the leading civilization of the Galactic Alliance indefinitely because of its undisputed advantages in force, economy and territory. The original intention of the establishment of the Galactic Alliance was to help the weak civilizations in the Milky Way develop and reduce disputes within the Milky Way. In addition, the Zerg that once destroyed the previous generation of civilization in the Milky Way is about to come. Only by joining the Alliance to resist the invasion of the Zerg can all civilizations have a chance to survive. The following is an introduction to the spacecraft of the Galaxy Security Force currently served by the Sith Empire fleet. They are 800-meter-long frigates, 1,400-meter-long destroyers, 2,500-meter-long cruisers, 5,000-meter-long battleships, 10,000-meter-long dreadnoughts, and 500-kilometer-long Titan-class battleships. Pictures are attached to the back of these battleships. But this is not the reason why the officers of the Hughes Principality were shocked. Compared with the latter two types of battleships, they are simply a big witch compared to a small witch. The length of the Moon-class battleship is 3,000 kilometers, the length of the Planetary-class battleship is 10,000 kilometers, the length of the Gas-class battleship is 100,000 kilometers, and the most eye-catching is the Star Fortress, with a length of 1.2 million kilometers. All of these spacecrafts were accompanied by pictures and videos without exception. These data made everyone unable to believe that they were all real. The high officials of the Hughes Principality did not expect that there would be a civilization that could build a building the size of a star. The resources required for a building of this level are simply astronomical, and tens of thousands of Hughes Principalities combined cannot build it. Your Majesty, what do you think? The officers swallowed and kicked the ball to the king. Let's continue to watch. King Hughes felt dry in his mouth. He did not expect this civilization to be so powerful. He thought that the fleet of 2,000 warships was the main fleet of their civilization, but now it seems that it is really a team. The next thing to come is the benefits of joining the Galactic Alliance. 1. You can use the wormhole high-speed channel of the Galactic Alliance to travel across the endless sea of stars at high speed. The wormhole high-speed channel will soon be spread throughout the galaxy, and it will only take a very short time to get anywhere to. You can enjoy the life-enhancing technology. The Empire will send the National Biological Company to help low-level civilizations improve their genes and increase the lifespan of their race. 3. All incurable diseases can be treated in the star field of the Alliance Sith Empire. 4. After joining the Galactic Alliance, you will be protected by the Alliance and the member civilizations in the Alliance will be protected from foreign invasion. 5. You can buy more advanced technology in the Alliance, but it is limited to the technology within 100 years of the current civilization's technological level. 6. Members of the Alliance can trade with each other. Once a major disaster occurs, the Galactic Alliance will provide rescue. Not bad, there are so many benefits, we can definitely join them. Many senior officials talked about it, and the king's face became much better. Next is the responsibility that the joiners need to bear, an official said and continued to turn the page. The responsibilities that the joiners need to bear and the points that must be done. 1. Recognize the legitimacy of the Sith Empire's rule over the Milky Way, and no civilization shall subvert the Sith Empire's rule over the Milky Way. 2. The joiners cannot retain armed forces. The safety of all the members of the Alliance will be protected by the Alliance Security Force, Sith Empire Fleet, and the original warships of the joiners will be transformed for civilian use under supervision. 3. The joiners can only retain the police force, and all ground defense work on all planets will be handed over to the Empire's robot forces. 4th, each civilization must hand over its military budget to the Empire in proportion to its original military expenditure to its income, and use it to build the Empire's security forces. Fifth, all civilizations must hand over 10% of their resource income each year as alliance maintenance fees. Sixth, civilizations that have joined the alliance must not wage war against each other, and any act of waging war will be considered a provocation to the authority of the Empire. Seventh, all civilizations must use Chinese as a second language, and all learning institutions must offer Chinese courses and Sith Empire history courses. Eighth, all participants must stop the research and development of weapons technology, including research on weapons of mass destruction or dangerous technologies. Seeing this, the officials of the Principality of Hughes fell silent. If they join the Galactic Alliance as stated in the invitation letter, it would be a loss of sovereignty and humiliation to the country. Chapter 487, Unequal Treaty and Admission. Your Majesty, we cannot agree to these demands. Without an army, we can only let them do whatever they want. An officer stood up and shouted excitedly. That's right, Your Majesty. We cannot join this Galactic Alliance. They are planning to use the resources we have worked so hard to collect to build their fleet, and they are also planning to invade us through culture. We will never allow that. Another officer also stood up to support. Don't argue. There is another page behind. Let's see what it is. The king slammed the table and shouted. As the invitation letter was turned to the last page, a video appeared on the screen. The first experiment of the Touch of Darkness has begun. All recording equipment is normal. A star-emitting red light appeared on the screen, and the voice of the narrator came from the speakers. 3, 2, 1. Touch of Darkness is launched. As the narration countdown ended, a blue light rushed straight to the star from the bottom of the screen. At this time, the video began to fast forward continuously. According to the time display in the upper right corner, after just a few hours, the entire star suddenly expanded several times in size. Then, the star suddenly broke apart like a smashed watermelon, and a large amount of stellar matter was ejected in all directions, accompanied by a dazzling light. A few minutes later, this dazzling light engulfed several planets in this star system, and these planets were turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. When the video was about to end, the light had disappeared, and what remained in this star system were countless stellar debris, which were still emitting a dim red light because of the residual heat. The entire conference room was silent, with only the video narration coming from the speakers. The Touch of Darkness experiment is complete, the target star has been destroyed, and as the energy shock wave spreads, nothing will survive within a 2 light-year diameter. As the narration disappeared, the video also paused on the screen of red stellar debris all over the ground. I agree to join the Galactic Alliance. At this time, an officer whispered weakly. Me too, I also agree to join the Galactic Alliance. I agree too. Everyone in the conference room expressed their opinions one after another, and it was completely impossible to tell that they had just righteously refused. At this time, only the king had not made a decision yet, and everyone's eyes were on the king. We, the Hughes Principality, will officially join the Galactic Alliance tomorrow. The king seemed to have aged a lot in an instant, and his body leaned weakly on the back of the chair. Tomorrow I will personally hand over the reply to the fleet of the Sith Empire. See you tomorrow, the king said with difficulty and stood up and left the meeting room. Everyone knew that once they joined the Galactic Alliance, according to these terms, the Hughes Principality would sooner or later be assimilated by the Sith Empire, and the fate of the royal family of the Principality could be imagined. The next day, a team composed of the king of the Hughes Principality and senior officers took a spaceship to the warship separated from the Imperial fleet. This time, it was no longer a soldier who came to greet them, but a man who looked like an officer. We, the Hughes Principality, agreed to join the Galactic Alliance. The king gritted his teeth and expressed the final decision of the Principality to the Imperial officer. Very good, you are very wise in the Hughes Principality. Unlike the civilization we met last time, you know, the order we received before we set out was to eradicate all civilizations that were unwilling to join the alliance. You are very smart. The imperial officer patted the shoulder of His Majesty the Emperor of the Hughes Principality. As the future overlord civilization of these civilizations, the officers of the Sith Empire completely looked down on the leaders of these weak civilizations. In their view, it was just a matter of him leading the fleet to fire a few volleys. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. After hearing the words of the Sith Empire officer, the officers who came with the king broke out in a cold sweat. They were walking on the edge of death. After a while, our Sith Empire's guidance team will come to help you. Please cooperate with their work. Otherwise we don't mind you disappearing in this universe." After waving his hand to see him off, the officer turned and walked towards the direction of the bridge. The king and officers of the Hughes Principality sighed and turned to leave the Imperial spaceship. A month later, several large transport ships of the Empire arrived in the star field where the Hughes Principality was located. A wormhole high-speed transit station was also built in the space next to the star. When the wormhole high-speed transit station was activated, countless spaceships emerged from it and flew to the mother star of the Hughes Principality, not far away. At this time, the citizens of the Hughes Principality have also learned that their country has joined a large alliance across the Milky Way. Today, the leaders of the Sith Empire will also arrive in their country to guide and supervise their process of joining the Galactic Alliance. The first destination of these Sith Empire spaceships is the military base of the Hughes Principality. Under the supervision of the Sith Empire leaders, all the warships of the Hughes Principality have been dismantled of weapons, heavy armor, military radars and thrusters, and completely transformed into civilian ships. In another place, on the capital star of the Hughes Principality, all the troops have been called up, and today is the day they are officially disbanded. Only a small number of elites will be transferred to police positions, and most of the soldiers will be unemployed and go home. In the face of possible rebellions, riots, etc., the Empire has also specially prepared consciousness infiltration game consoles for them. People who are unemployed at home only need to indulge in the illusory game world every day. In addition, the biggest change is the high-rise buildings that have sprung up in the city. The Royal Medical College and the Royal Bank are the most eye-catching. Among them, the Royal Medical College is the industry under the name of the Sith Empire Royal Family, and it is also the one that provides technical support for the lifespan improvement of the civilization. The Royal Bank is also owned by the Imperial Royal Family, with the purpose of absorbing the funds of these people and secretly controlling the economic lifeline of the civilization. 2 months later, Lespris is just an ordinary company employee. 2 months ago, when he knew that his country had joined the Galactic Alliance and was not even allowed to have an army, he was the most opposed group. However, even if he united a large number of patriots and students to march, he could not change the result of the Hughes Principality joining the Galactic Alliance. Originally, he thought that becoming a vassal civilization under the rule of the Sith Empire would make them slaves, but he found that he was wrong. The Hughes Principality has undergone earth-shaking changes in the past 2 months. Chapter 488, Preparing for the Second Space Travel. After leaving his home, Lespris hailed a taxi. Unlike the Boeing office job, he applied for a job as a flight attendant at the Royal Passenger Transport Company 2 days ago. This passenger transport company came from the Sith Empire, which has become the sovereign of their Hughes Principality. It is said to be the property of their royal family. This company is also the only company with a license to cross the Milky Way. Only this company has routes that can cross the Milky Way. And his latest job is to serve passengers on a passenger ship from the Hughes Principality to the New Human Federation Star Zone. Although the ticket price of this ship is extremely expensive, it still can't stop the curiosity of the rich people in the Sith Empire and the Hughes Principality. Everyone wants to experience other civilizations. When the taxi took off into the air, the tallest skyscraper in the 3 cities appeared in his sight. Lespris knew that the shortest of the 3 buildings was the Sith Empire Royal Biotechnology, which provided life extension services for all income-earning people in their Hughes Principality. Unemployed people who are unemployed and receive relief at home are excluded. There is only one requirement for obtaining life extension, that is, all income from now on must be deposited into the Imperial Royal Bank, and 10% of the annual income will be used as the treatment cost for life extension. In other words, once the life extension is accepted, 1/10 of the wealth created by the person for the rest of his life will no longer belong to them. The tallest Imperial Royal Bank is the official designated bank that people must open an account with to enjoy the various services of the Galactic Alliance. Under the crushing of the Sith Empire's technology and productivity, the 3 most important aspects of life, money and transportation of the people of this weak civilization will be completely monopolized by the Empire. In addition, this civilization no longer has any military power. Once Mingze's plan is completed, it will be easy to assimilate the civilization. A few minutes later, Lespris finally came to where he worked, the second tallest building in the city. Although this building is not the tallest, it occupies the largest area. In order to make room for this building, the Principality of Hughes demolished 3 parks and 2 blocks. This building is the passenger center of the Imperial Royal Passenger Transport Company. Hundreds of passenger ships of various sizes have been docked in this building. These passenger ships connect the Hughes Principality and the various star regions of the Sith Empire and more than 2,000 civilizations that have just joined the Galactic Alliance through the wormhole high-speed channel. It is conceivable that with the development of technology, the business of these civilizations will become more and more developed, indirectly promoting the development of the entire Galactic Alliance. Lespris, go faster, our spaceship is about to be launched, a female flight attendant shouted to Lespris at the door of the security inspection station. Lespris hurriedly passed through the security checkpoint and entered the corridor. A few minutes later, at the hour, the mechanical arm that fixed Lespris's spaceship opened outward, and a white streamlined passenger spaceship took off and flew into the sky from the huge opening on the top of the passenger center. Dear passengers, welcome aboard the Mystic Star interstellar flight. Your destination is the new Human Federation star zone of the Sith Empire. This flight will last for a month. There are hibernation chambers and a large activity center installed on the spacecraft. You can freely choose how to spend this month. Please cooperate with our work. I am the captain of this flight, Yangshi Zhang Heng. Thank you for your cooperation and support. As the captain's voice disappeared in the corridor, the passengers on the flight began to walk towards the activity hall. This long-distance flight lasting a month has just begun. Everyone is not in a hurry to enter the hibernation chamber. It is not too late to enjoy the services on this spacecraft before hibernation. At this time, Lespris saw Captain Zhang Heng walking towards the engine compartment, but he did not think much about it. He turned his sight back and pushed the service car in front of him out of the corridor. A few minutes later, the captain's figure appeared in front of the engine compartment door of the Mystic Star spacecraft. Captain, what are you doing here? The two engineers responsible for engine compartment maintenance and security hurriedly stood up from their seats and saluted. I saw that the engine seemed to have a small problem on the bridge, so I came to check it out. The captain walked up to the two and said. Hearing this, the two engineers immediately lowered their heads and began to search on the computer terminal, but there was no display on the terminal. Captain, the terminal shows up. Oh, let me go. The two engineers were suddenly grabbed by the throat by the captain with both hands and lifted into the air. No, the two men's eyes were full of despair, and their limbs kept paddling in the air, but soon the two engineers were silent and their limbs drooped weakly. Nosy rubbish, the captain wiped his hands, and a bloodthirsty look appeared in the corners of his eyes. After inserting the magnetic cards of the two engineers into the door of the engine room, the two heavy alloy doors slowly opened. However, the captain did not go directly to the engine of the spacecraft. His goal was the hyperspace engine room above the engine room. After entering the hyperspace engine room through the elevator, the captain's face suddenly became twitchy. Damn science committee, I won't let you go. Since I can't deal with you, I can only find someone who can deal with you, the captain muttered to himself as he walked to the hyperspace engine and slowly stretched his hands toward the hyperspace engine. The moment his hands touched the hyperspace engine, a trace of purple light penetrated into the hyperspace engine along the captain's hands. Let me bring you destruction with my death, in the name of the anti-Saint Yang Shai, the captain said as his whole body turned into a pool of blood, and the purple light disappeared, as if nothing had happened. The mysterious star spacecraft was still sailing steadily in the wormhole high-speed channel, demarcation line. What happened around the Empire Star region had nothing to do with Mingze, and all matters related to the Galactic Alliance were handed over to Tianyi. He and Eva stayed in the space-time transmission center all day, because after a long period of debugging and maintenance, the space-time transmission device finally returned to its best condition, and the next space travel plan was imperative. However, unlike the last time, the Empire's space technology has just made a breakthrough, and the Empire's scientists have theoretically found a way to maintain the space-time channel. Chapter 489 PX0006Q Universe. The latest research by the Imperial scientists shows that if the same space-time transmission equipment can be built at the same coordinate point in another space-time, and both sides can be turned on for transmission at the same time, the channel between the two spaces can be opened. The existence time of this channel will be unlimited. As long as the equipment on both sides is still powered and operating normally, this channel will not disappear. However, this idea is still only in the theoretical stage, and the Imperial scientists are working hard to calculate the feasibility of this method. At the same time, the second space-time shuttle plan began. It was still the hull of the last time. Mingze and many scientists sat in the same position as last time. The previous series of procedures were the same as last time. The glass and shields were all raised, and the weapons in the hall were all aimed at the center of the hall. However, the only exception was that there was a girl in the Imperial Special Operations Team. This girl was Yi-01, brought out from the last space-time shuttle experiment, and her current name was Yi-Ling. Why is this guy also in the team? Mingze looked at the chief scientist Yang Yunfei with a surprised face and asked. Her Majesty Eva planted it. She said that this little guy didn't want to stay idle in the palace and wanted to go to other spaces for adventure. Yang Yunfei shrugged. Nonsense. Mingze angrily slammed the table and looked around. Sure enough, Eva's figure disappeared. After seeing Eva fleeing for fear of crime, Mingze sat back in his seat helplessly. Since this little girl wanted to take risks so much, let her go. With the help of a battle-hardened artificial intelligence, the survival rate of the Special Operations Team must be higher. The countdown for the second time space shuttle begins. 3, 2, 1. Start. As the countdown of Chief Scientist Yang Yunfei ended, a dazzling light covered the center of the hall, and the 10 Special Operations Team members standing in the hall and Yi-Ling's figure disappeared. On a green planet with tall trees, accompanied by a dazzling light, the Special Operations Team and Yi-Ling appeared in the rainforest. Start locating the current coordinates and start calculating the current approximate time, Yi-Ling ordered the Special Operations Team. As a member of the EVA resistance with hundreds of years of combat experience, Yi-Ling undoubtedly became the captain of this shuttle team. Soon, several team members climbed to the top of the giant tree and placed a measuring observation instrument on the tree crown. The current light is too strong. We must wait until night falls to determine the current location and year by the position of the stars. Yi-Ling closed her eyes and connected the observation instrument, but after a moment she shook her head. Release all drones and spread out for reconnaissance. We must ensure the safety of the surroundings and then set up a simple camp here. After saying this, Yi-Ling drew out a beam energy blade and chopped at the giant tree beside him, muttering, "The first step is to build 2 wooden houses after chopping down the trees. The weight we can transmit is limited, so it is impossible to transmit building materials. Everything for the simple camp must be obtained by ourselves." Yes, after releasing the drone, 3 team members left the team and went to the outer perimeter for alert, while the rest of the people began to chop down trees and build houses with Eva. The texture of these trees is very hard, and each tree is tens of meters high, which makes them an excellent building material. As for the hard texture, it is just like tofu to the beam energy blade. In just 3 hours, the first stilt house built by the trunk of a giant tree appeared on the clearing that had been cut down. The Special Operations Team and Yi-Ling also entered this 2-story stilt house that was 6 meters above the ground and covered an area of 100 square meters. Captain, the drones have sent information about the surrounding terrain and creatures. These drones have explored all places within a diameter of 70 kilometers. According to the report, nothing related to man-made objects has been found within this circle with a diameter of 70 kilometers, and no highly intelligent creatures have been found, not to mention cities and the like. A Special Operations Team member shook his head while looking at the tablet. Yi-Ling clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention and then said, "According to the arrangement above, if we haven't encountered any threats when the space-time channel opens next time, then send a drone with general information about this place into the channel. The Empire will analyze the data and send us the second batch of support troops and supplies. Your mission next is only one. That is to cut down trees and build wooden houses for me. Provide shelter for the incoming support troops and build storage places for supplies. Do you understand?" "Understood," everyone shouted in unison and jumped off the stilt house with the beam energy blades. Then there was the sound of trees falling outside. 5 hours later, with the addition of 3 guard soldiers and more sophisticated construction technology, the construction speed of the wooden house was greatly accelerated. By dark, another 3 stilt houses had been built. At this time, the observation instrument placed on the crown of the only giant tree left in the center of the camp could finally scan the starry sky. Data about the surrounding stars quickly entered Yi-Ling's mind, and Yi-Ling began to constantly calculate the time required for these displacements and the possible current location. The calculation results are out. We are currently on a planet in the Sith Empire, but the time is 13 billion years ago. Everything here is still in an extremely primitive state. The galaxies in this universe are not as huge as they will be 13 billion years later. The seeds of many civilizations in this universe may have just been born. Yiling looked at the starry sky in disbelief. Sure enough, the distance between each star is much smaller than that observed from the Empire planet. The reason for this is that the universe has just begun to expand for 3 billion years. The distance between each star system and galaxy is still very small, but after 13 billion years, after more than 10 billion years of continuous expansion, the distance between each galaxy has expanded by at least 3 times. Do you know what this means? Yiling lowered his head and asked the Special Forces. I don't know, the Special Forces shook their heads. This means that this universe is as pure as a newborn baby. There should not be any civilization that can cross the galaxy here. The heavy elements needed for many advanced technologies have just been synthesized by nature. Those civilizations that will rule the universe in the future may not even have evolved into single cells yet. This means that this universe will become the rear base of our empire. It means that our Sith Empire will be the most powerful existence here. No one can disturb the development of our empire, and we can do whatever we want here, Yiling explained excitedly. If the Sith Empire in our universe could find such a universe, then her Sith Empire would not be destroyed. Chapter 490, The First Colonization of a Parallel Universe. In the event of an invincible foreign invasion, the Empire can completely hide in this universe. As long as the enemy has not invented technology that can travel through time and space, the Empire will be absolutely safe. You all disperse immediately and explore the area around our camp. Don't miss any suspicious places. I'll stay here and continue to observe the starry sky for measurement. Yiling waved and sat on the floor, while the Special Forces drew their weapons and jumped out of the wooden house and rushed into the woods. 3 days later. Space fluctuations have been detected, and the space-time shuttle channel is about to open. Yiling suddenly opened her eyes. There is no doubt that the time to return is about to arrive. After sending some arrangements to the terminals of the 10 Special Forces, Yiling walked towards the space-time shuttle channel that appeared. Such critical information must be reported to His Majesty the Emperor in person. After a few seconds, the flash disappeared, and Yiling's figure also disappeared in the woods. Your Majesty, the space-time shuttle channel has been reopened. Come out, it's Yiling. Li Mingze lost his voice when he saw Yiling appearing in the middle of the hall. Is there any danger in this universe? 10 Special Forces and Yiling were left with only her. Your Majesty, I have important discoveries to report. Please don't isolate me first, Yiling suddenly shouted after appearing. Oh, Li Mingze put on the power armor and entered the hall under the escort of the guards. Your Majesty, this is the case. This universe Eva reported all her discoveries in the new universe to Li Mingze. Ha, good. Very good. With this universe, we are no longer afraid of any threats. Li Mingze was overjoyed after hearing the situation in another universe. He was originally worried that he would be defeated by the Zerg and have no way out, but now it is different. He already has a large rear base that can retreat at any time. Immediately organize a backup team and call scientists to study how to build a time-space shuttle device in another universe, Li Mingze said and walked out. 12 days later, the readjusted time-space shuttle device was ready again. Because there was no need to change the universe coordinates this time, the preparation time was greatly reduced. A 5-person elite team and 5 400-kilogram supply boxes were all the things that were sent over in the next batch. The 5 supply boxes were filled with a variety of tools and food synthesizers. The 5 people who were teleported this time would meet up with the first batch of Marines and expand the temporary camp at the teleportation point to receive the supplies and staff that would arrive in succession. With a burst of light, the 5 members and the supply boxes disappeared from their original locations and appeared in the PX0006Q universe. The first batch of 10 Special Forces had been waiting at the place where the space-time channel appeared, and when the second batch of personnel arrived, they immediately surrounded them to help sort out the supplies. Because of the time difference between this universe and the main universe, 1 day in the PX0006Q universe is equivalent to 4 days in the main universe, so it only takes 3 days in this world for their next batch of aid to arrive. In 3 days, the 15-member alternative universe development team successfully expanded the temporary camp stilt houses to 10, which can accommodate 50 people living here. In addition, they also built a 3-meter-high wall around the camp with wooden stakes. The various equipment brought by the second wave of aid was also put into use, and the development teams had clean fresh water and various delicacies synthesized using food synthesizers. Everything in the temporary camp is moving in a good direction. 3 days passed in a flash, and the third batch of reinforcements arrived at a temporary camp through the space-time channel. Like last time, this time there were 5 soldiers and 5 boxes of supplies, but this time the 5 boxes of supplies brought some computer terminals, monitors and small field generators. After these small field transmitters and monitors were installed, the safety of the temporary camp was finally guaranteed. A layer of small fields that could withstand 3 volleys of heavy tanks appeared around the camp, protecting the camp firmly. Another 3 days passed, and the 4th batch of reinforcements arrived. This time there were 5 scientists engaged in biological, geographical and astronomical research and 5 boxes of experimental instruments. It was obvious that this team of scientists came here for preliminary investigation. After there were no problems, the follow-up large forces would come again. These scientists were fortunate to be assigned a stilt house each, and the instruments in the supply box were also installed. The scientists began to detect the surrounding environment. 3 drones used to obtain biological samples flew from the camp to the woods. Another 3 days passed, and the 5th batch of reinforcements arrived, but this time there were only 2 people that all the soldiers did not expect, Mingze and Eva. In the main universe, Mingze could only learn about everything in this universe through the videos provided by Ling. In the end, he could not bear his curiosity about the ancient universe, so he brought Eva to this universe. However, in order to prevent the soul from being unable to pass through the 2 universes, Mingze specially brought a consciousness landing chamber where his clone was sleeping. This consciousness landing chamber can ensure that even if his body is killed, his consciousness can return to the clone body of the landing chamber. Then this consciousness landing chamber was buried by everyone 30 meters underground in the center of the camp. The landing chamber made of the hardest metal in the ring world can allow Mingze to persist in it until the arrival of the Imperial support. Even if the worst happens, he can try to leave this body and try to return at the moment when the space-time channel is opened. It is precisely because his life is guaranteed that Mingze dares to come and experience the world of this ancient universe. On the other side, Mingze of the Sith Empire has been completely handed over to Tianyi. It is believed that even if he disappears for 1 or 2 years, there will be no problem. In the 3 days after Mingze arrived, everyone was not idle. The trees around the camp were cut down, leaving a large area of open space around the camp. These open spaces are for the expansion of the camp and for use as a safe distance in the future. After all, there are dense forests outside the camp, and it is inevitable that the dangers hidden in the forest will not be discovered for a while. After 3 fulfilling days, the 6th batch of reinforcements also arrived. This batch of reinforcements is 5 mining robots. These mining robots can transform minerals into imperial standards and then use equipment for reorganization. Mingze knows that the next batch of reinforcements should be large-scale item manufacturing machines, without exception. With this item manufacturing machine, they can use the minerals excavated by the robot to make anything they want. With the existence of this equivalent to a machine tool mother machine, modern civilization will take root on this planet. Chapter 491 Searching for a New Energy Source. The PX0006Q universe and 4 months in the main universe. The temporary camp in the PX0006Q universe has developed into a large camp consisting of 60 soldiers and 10 scientists. The original wooden houses have been replaced by alloy board houses made by large-scale object printers. The original ecological camp has become a small community composed of white bubble-shaped buildings. Outside the wooden fence of the camp, there is also a layer of high-voltage electromagnetic fence composed of 36 generators. Any creature that tries to break through this layer of flashing electric light will be electrocuted to ashes. The giant tree in the middle of the camp has also been cut off from branches and leaves, leaving only a bare trunk. The top of the trunk has been installed with signal generators and small radars of various frequency bands. The area within a radius of 100 kilometers around the camp is under radar surveillance, even including the insects mating on the leaves. In the following time, the Empire's troops will continue to come to this universe from the Time and Space Channel. Until this universe can build a time and space shuttle, but this does not seem to be an easy task. The amount of materials that can be transmitted each time through space and time is too small. The materials needed to drive the space and time shuttle are far from being able to be transmitted in a short time. What's more, the Empire in the main universe has specially built a Dyson sphere to drive this space and time shuttle. How can the Empire in this universe have the ability to build a Dyson sphere? After staying in this PX0006Q universe for another month, Li Mingze found that the progress was too slow, so he had no choice but to return to the main universe where the Empire was located. The development of this PX0006Q universe was completely handed over to Eva, who voluntarily stayed. With the existence of this artificial intelligence queen, who was once able to madly increase the number of troops, Li Mingze thought that it was much better than commanding there himself. After all, Eva also relied on a spaceship built on the Earth to develop to the point where she could build a planetary spaceship, although it was just a flower stand. Your Majesty, I know what you are worried about. Li Mingze had just returned to the main universe when Tianyi appeared in front of him. Oh? What can you do? Li Mingze asked in confusion. Since our universe cannot handle the huge amount of energy required by the space-time shuttle device, why don't we carry out the next space-time shuttle plan and find more efficient energy through other universes? Tianyi said slowly. Yes, if we can't find more efficient energy in our universe, we can go to other parallel universes to find it. Li Mingze's eyes lit up. Has the second space-time transmission center been built? Thinking of this, Li Mingze suddenly asked. After discovering the universe with only more than 3 billion years of history, the new space-time transmission center was listed in his construction list. Once the channel between the two universes can be opened, the current space-time transmission center will undoubtedly be insufficient, which is also the reason for the construction of the second transmission center. It has been completed, Your Majesty. Our troops have been stationed in the space-time transmission center. Tianyi nodded. Transfer the task of transmission with the PX0006Q universe to the new transmission center, and this old transmission center will continue to be used to explore the new universe. Li Mingze waved his hand and arranged. The moment Li gave the order, the soldiers in the base received the order, and a large number of scientists and soldiers boarded the spacecraft and flew to another time space shuttle base. In order to prevent uncontrollable dangerous situations, the two time-space transmission centers were built in different star systems. In this way, once a base has a problem, the Empire can also eliminate the threat by destroying the star system. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. Just now, a civilization that joined the Galactic Alliance in the direction of Andromeda has rioted. Tianyi's expression suddenly changed, and his face became extremely bad. What is the loss? Li Mingze's expression suddenly became serious. This was the first time that a riot had occurred under his rule since he took office. The people of this civilization skinned and brutally killed 1,325 travelers from our Sith Empire. According to intelligence, these people used our citizens to sacrifice to the gods. Tianyi was so angry that he could see the fire in his eyes. Li Mingze clenched his fists tightly when he heard the words, and the nails of both hands dug into the flesh. Anything else? This sentence was almost squeezed out from between his teeth, and the officers on the site even smelled a breath of death. There are also 3,000 citizens from other member countries, as well as government officials who signed an agreement with us to join the Galactic Alliance. It is said that it was proposed by a cult leader on this planet. According to the information sent back by our agent before his death, the people who believe in this cult have occupied 73% of the population of this civilization, and the reason for launching this riot is that your purification operation threatens the survival of this cult. They launched this riot relying on the idea that the law does not punish the masses. Tianyi told all the data he had learned. They all have to die. They all have to die, Li Mingze roared angrily, and the officers on the side lowered their heads in fear. Kick this civilization out of the Galactic Alliance. Next, I will go to the civilization myself. Li Mingze threw his cloak and walked to the end of the corridor. A few days later, in the Imperial Biochemical Laboratory, Li Mingze walked out of the laboratory holding a genetically modified alien egg and boarded a small spaceship. After nearly a month of long journey, the small spaceship finally reached the orbit of the planet where the riot occurred and thousands of Imperial citizens were massacred. The spaceship did not stay in orbit, but fell directly to the ground of the planet. Since the spaceship entered the atmosphere in the middle of the ocean of this planet, and this civilization was just a primitive civilization that had just left its home planet, it was impossible to detect the small, invisible spaceship of the Empire. A few hours later, next to a city filled with smoke and fire, Li Mingze drove the spaceship slowly to the ground. Then he walked out of the spaceship holding the alien egg and began to walk towards the city. He did not stop until he came to a square where thousands of people were gathering. At this time, these gathered cult members had already discovered Li Mingze's figure. Today, I will personally avenge those 1,325 citizens of the Empire. If I had not let these civilizations go and allowed them to join the Galactic Alliance, your tragic deaths would not have been in vain. May my dear citizens rest in peace." Li Mingze placed the alien egg in the center of the square and cut off the connection with his body. The unconscious body collapsed on the alien egg. At this time, a small alien broke out of the alien egg and drilled into Li Mingze's clone body. A catastrophe was about to begin. Chapter 492 Awakening. 10 days later, the star system where the riot took place had been forgotten by everyone. That star system had never sent a message to the outside world again, and the entire star system had completely fallen silent. The citizens of other civilizations who were killed on this planet were also excused by the Empire as having died from natural disasters. No civilization in the Galactic Alliance knew what had happened there. People only knew that this star system had been designated as the highest level of biochemical restricted area by the Alliance. At this time, the third shuttle of the Space-Time Goo project was about to start, and Li Mingze and a group of scientists came to the transmission center again. The countdown for the third shuttle starts. 3, 2, 1. As the countdown ended, a dazzling light appeared in the center of the hall again. Li Mingze, wake up. Why did you fall asleep while playing on the computer? Li Mingze suddenly felt his shoulders being shaken twice, and he raised his head in a daze. Auntie May. Li Mingze widened his eyes. Standing behind him was Auntie May, the landlord of the rental house where he had rented for 2 years. Aunt May lived next door to Li Mingze and often asked him to come over to improve their lives, so Li Mingze was particularly close to her. Your classmates said they couldn't contact you, and no one answered when they knocked on the door. I was worried, so I came to see you. Who knew you could sleep in front of the computer for 3 days? You don't take care of your body. Aunt May patted Li Mingze's head. As a landlord who had been in contact with Li Mingze for more than 2 years, she often took care of this poor child without parents. I was wondering why you were so hungry. It turns out you slept for 3 days. Is everything a dream? It's so real. Li Mingze looked at his hands and sighed. What dream? Aunt May asked curiously. Nothing, just some unrealistic dreams. I have to go to school quickly. It would be terrible if the teacher failed me. Li Mingze suddenly remembered that he was a senior student. If he failed a senior course and had to retake it, it would be terrible. After washing up as quickly as possible, Li Mingze grabbed the backpack on the table and ran towards the school. After rushing out of the rental house, he saw several small restaurants and small shops that he was familiar with. Everything was so familiar. The 100 years in the dream suddenly became blurred, and Li Mingze began to forget what happened in the past 100 years. The figures of the Sith Empire, Tianyi, Eva, Qiyu, Li Jilu, etc. gradually blurred, the imperial palace of the empire disappeared, and the majestic ring world faded from memory. I said, how could an ordinary person like me suddenly become the emperor of an empire, and even marry so many beautiful wives? It can only exist in dreams. After tidying up his clothes, Li Mingze bought a piece of chocolate in a small shop and got on the bus that had just stopped while eating. As the bus slowly left the platform, the familiar scenery on both sides of the road appeared in front of Li Mingze. Suddenly, a beautiful back in front of him attracted his attention, and this back made him feel a little familiar. When the bus passed by, Li Mingze caught a glimpse of the true face of this beautiful back. Tianyi, the half-eaten chocolate in Li Mingze's mouth slipped from his mouth, and he stood still as if struck by lightning. Everything in the dream came back like a tide, and all kinds of Tianyi filled Li Mingze's brain. Driver, I want to get off. Li Mingze ran to the driver's seat of the bus like crazy. Sir, not here, the bus driver said, turning around and seeing Li Mingze's fierce eyes. A chill suddenly rose from the bottom of the driver's heart. He didn't know why he suddenly felt like facing a beast. The instinct of the creature told him that if he didn't agree to the request of the young man in front of him, he might be in danger, so the bus stopped by the road in a hurry. When the door opened, Li Mingze's figure rushed out of the bus like a sharp arrow, rushing towards the figure that seemed to be Tianyi. Tianyi. Tianyi, Li Mingze began to shout loudly from a distance. What shocked him was that the woman who looked like Tianyi turned her head reflexively. You are. Hello, do I know you? Luo Tianyi looked at the young man in front of him in confusion. Tianyi, you are not sorry, I was reckless, you look like someone in my dream. Li Mingze suddenly realized something and scratched his head awkwardly. Haha, the way to pick up girls nowadays is so interesting. Since you're so cute, I can give you my mobile phone number. Let's get to know each other. My name is Luo Tianyi. Although I don't know how you know my nickname, you don't look like a bad person. Luo Tianyi smiled with his hands covering his mouth, and typed out his mobile phone number on his mobile phone and showed it to Li Mingze. Are you also a student of Zhangjiang University of Technology? Li Mingze asked in confusion as he walked side by side with Luo Tianyi. The direction they were currently walking was exactly the direction of Zhangjiang University of Technology. Yes, I am studying for a doctorate at Zhangjiang University of Technology, Tianyi answered indifferently. Li Mingze suddenly realized that the man in front of him was definitely much older than him, and for a moment he didn't know how to talk to him. Just when the two of them fell into silence, a beautiful figure holding a mobile phone suddenly appeared on the colorful advertising screen beside the street. Seeing the beauty in the advertisement, Li Mingze's pupils shrank again. Hey, isn't that the first generation of artificial intelligence that was just launched the day before yesterday? However, it is said that this artificial intelligence is only a pseudo-artificial intelligence and cannot think, but I didn't expect that she would start taking advertisements so soon, and she looks exactly like a real person. Luo Tianyi sighed as he looked at the person on the screen. What's her name? Li Mingze asked with some trembling. Her name seems to be Eva or something. Tianyi shrugged to indicate that he couldn't remember it clearly. Eva, Eva, Eva. Li Mingze kept repeating the name, causing Luo Tianyi to roll his eyes. I say, there is a real beauty standing next to you. Really? Is it really okay for you to keep talking about another beauty in front of this beauty? Luo Tianyi pretended to be dissatisfied, but in fact she was just joking. Oh, nothing. Her appearance reminded me of someone. Li Mingze coughed twice and retracted his gaze, but his heart was full of doubts. Do you think this person has appeared in your dream? Tianyi chuckled and poked Li Mingze's arm. Yes, but she really appeared in my dream. Li Mingze sighed. Well, you may have accidentally seen someone who impressed you before. Such as a very beautiful woman, and then when you are dreaming, your brain will automatically replace these women into your dream, which should be the reason why you dreamed of us. Luo Tianyi touched his chin and pretended to think. Well, did you think the author had a bad ending? But it didn't end badly. Cough cough, it's not finished yet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493 Shattered Dream. Is it true that I have seen you guys before? Li Mingze shook his head helplessly. Who knows? Let's go. I'll take you to meet my mentor. This guy is a freak who knows everything. His name is also very strange. Maybe he knows why you have these dreams. Luo Tianyi took Li Mingze's hand and ran towards the school's laboratory building. Luo Tianyi's beautiful figure attracted the attention of everyone in the school. Even some girls were attracted by her beauty. Everyone was sighing that a flower was stuck in cow dung. This scene was also seen by Li Jielu, who was passing by. She was only shocked. She never expected that Li Mingze, who was rejected by herself, would find a girlfriend so quickly, and such a beautiful girlfriend. Here we are. This is my mentor's office. Luo Tianyi pulled Li Mingze to stop in front of an office door, and the name on the office door plate instantly attracted Li Mingze's attention. Teacher Faraday, I brought a friend. He said he had never seen me, but I appeared in his dream. Luo Tianyi opened the door and shouted to the room. After seeing this Teacher Faraday, Li Mingze was so shocked that he couldn't even close his mouth. This person was the chief physicist in his dream, the creator of the Supreme Scientific Committee of Humanity, Faraday. Time passed like flowing water. Not long after, Li Mingze and Luo Tianyi's feelings became deeper and deeper. The two overcame the age barrier and held a wedding on a small island. At the wedding, Li Mingze met two people who shocked him again. Qi Huayu and Chu Xiangwen in his dream served as bridesmaids as Luo Tianyi's good friends. The priest who presided over their wedding was another person familiar to Li Mingze, the dead Yang Shai. Decades later, Li Mingze already had children and grandchildren, but he was also at the end of his life. In a hospital invested by the Li Group, Li Mingze lay on the bed, and his children and grandchildren surrounded him. Children, I want to tell you a story before I leave. This story is a dream I had when I was young. In the dream, I traveled to a place called the Sith Empire. As the story was finished, Li Mingze closed his eyes peacefully. Alarm. The space channel detected an abnormal energy intrusion, and the space channel has been forcibly closed, with bursts of explosions. The ring that maintained the space channel was detonated by the bomb and fell in the center of the transmission hall. What happened? Did it I already? Li Mingze stood up suddenly, and the familiar environment around him made him suddenly pause. Isn't this my dream? Did I return to the dream again after my death? Is this what the ancients called heaven? Li Mingze murmured to himself while touching the familiar power armor. Your Majesty, don't think about it. The special energy that just leaked from the space channel brought everyone in the base into an illusion. You just slept under the influence of this energy. Tianyi's voice appeared in Li Mingze's ears. Fortunately, I am an artificial intelligence and am not disturbed by this energy. This energy seems to be able to stabilize the existence of the space channel and continuously penetrate into our universe. Almost all the intelligent bodies in our universe will fall into an endless sleep. Tianyi sighed. He never expected that the third time he opened the space channel would almost destroy the universe. This terrifying energy is simply impossible to defend against. The shield of the Empire was penetrated by this energy without any effect. Well, that means I was just dreaming. Li Mingze looked at his hands in disbelief. But now he really believes what Luo Tianyi said in the dream. The people he saw in his daily life will really be automatically added to the dream by his brain. This can also explain why he happened to meet everyone in the Sith Empire in his dream. In fact, ordinary life is also very interesting. Li Mingze smiled. Ah. Your Majesty, what do you mean? Tianyi asked puzzled. Nothing, I just had a beautiful dream. In the dream, I was with a beloved woman. Li Mingze closed his eyes and recalled everything in the dream just now. Everything was so real, as if it had really happened. Tianyi, classify this universe as the fifth level universe. In the future, no space-time channel connecting this universe shall be opened again without my order. Li Mingze suddenly opened his eyes and said to Tianyi seriously. Yes, sir. This universe has been classified as the most dangerous fifth-level universe. All data related to this universe has been sealed and stored by me. The space-time shuttle device will no longer be able to input the coordinates of this universe. Tianyi's voice disappeared. Although this universe is very dangerous, it is a very useful weapon when there is an enemy that cannot be defeated. Li Mingze suddenly thought of something and sneered. If someone familiar with him was here, they would know that someone might be unlucky again in the future. A month later, the appearance of the PX0009E universe that can lead people into the energy of the illusion became a secret in the minds of the scientists on the spot, and no one mentioned it again. The fourth time travel plan was also put on the agenda. May we be able to successfully find a universe that is useful to us this time. The previous ones can only provide limited help to our empire, except for the PX0006Q universe, which can be developed into the rear base of the empire. The PX0003W and PX0009E universes are basically high-risk universes. Li Mingze sighed as he sat in his seat. It has been a year since the implementation of the space-time GU plan, and in this year, the Empire has only obtained the wreckage of a drone. It is still unknown when the PX0006Q universe can build a space-time shuttle. As time goes by, the Zerg fleet may land in the Milky Way at any time. Li Mingze felt an unprecedented sense of urgency. The fourth space-time shuttle is ready to begin, in the control room several light years away from the transmission base. Li Mingze and the scientists looked at the screen in front of them. Because they were worried that the situation would happen again, this time all the scientists and technicians, except the soldiers, were evacuated to a space station in the orbit of a star system several light years away from the transmission center for remote control. Through the camera, Li Mingze and others saw that after a burst of strong light, the special forces disappeared into the hull of the transmission center. It seems that this universe should not be particularly dangerous, or there is no danger where our space-time channel is opened. After waiting for a while, the scientists finally breathed a sigh of relief when they found that there was no abnormal fluctuation in the space-time channel. Chapter 494 Beautiful Trap. The special forces who traveled to the new parallel universe PX0011W returned to the transmission center intact from the time and space channel. The data stored in the monitors of these special forces were uploaded to an isolated host in the transmission center. Li Mingze also learned detailed information about this new universe from the special forces. According to the team members, the destination they arrived at was an unmanned fortress. The walls of this fortress were full of imperial flags. It was obvious that this was a fortress of the Sith Empire. Not only that, the technology possessed by this fortress was far more advanced than the current Sith Empire. Think about it, a fortress with no people, advanced technology, and Tianyi can control. This is simply a treasure house. A treasure house that can make the Empire's technology explode. It seems that I have to go there in person, although I was curious about why there was no one in the space station. It seemed to be calling Li Mingze in the dark. Li Mingze didn't know what this feeling was. He felt like he had encountered something destined. That feeling told him that the past was right. This was something he was destined to encounter. At this moment, Li Mingze suddenly felt a burst of stabbing pain in his body, but the strange thing was that he was wearing a power armor now, and nothing could hurt him. Scan my body and see if there is anything abnormal in my body. Li Mingze frowned and ordered the armor in a deep voice. Your body is extremely healthy during the scan, and there is nothing abnormal. A moment later, the power armor sent a sound of completion of the test. Strange. Li Mingze stopped his steps towards the hall, removed the power armor on his body, and stood on the ground in a tights. Suddenly, a sharp pain far stronger than just now came from his arm, and he knelt down directly on the ground. In a panic, Li Mingze cut off the connection with his body and switched directly to the clone in the palace. But what shocked him was that the pain from his body was still there. And the pain was intensified. What happened? Li Mingze raised his arm that was painful in a panic. But there was nothing abnormal on this arm, no wounds or bruises. But the pain continued to come. Wake up, don't enter the time shuttle. Li Mingze suddenly heard a series of whispers in his ears, but when he looked around, he didn't find anyone. Tianyi, is that you? Li Mingze tried to call in his mind, but no one responded to him. Close your eyes, you don't belong here, leave quickly, the whisper came again in his ears. This time Li Mingze chose to believe this voice. He slowly closed his eyes, thinking that he wanted to leave. Although he didn't know what happened, everything was too weird now, so he had to follow the voice in his ears. Suddenly, he felt a centrifugal feeling above his head, as if the whole world was spinning. Open your eyes, Li Mingze's ears were shouted again, but this time the voice was much more real than the previous one, and the distance of the voice became as if it was right at the root of the ear. Hearing this, Li Mingze slowly opened his eyes, and a face wearing a golden space helmet appeared in front of Li Mingze. Li Mingze wanted to retreat as a conditioned reflex, but at this time he found that he had been fixed on an operating table. Don't move. I just injected you with a sobering agent. You are very weak now. These handcuffs may hurt you, the mysterious person wearing a golden space helmet whispered to Li Mingze. From her voice, Li Mingze could tell that she was a woman. Where am I? What happened? Li Mingze looked around the operating table in confusion. Judging from the decoration of this room, it is a standard operating room, but the door of this operating room is a heavy alloy door. There are no windows or vents in the whole room. The air he breathes is transmitted by several oxygen cylinders. Half a year ago, dozens of soldiers and you and some scientists suddenly appeared in the open space next to our camp, and when you appeared, you all lost consciousness. The mysterious person in the golden helmet chuckled. You mean, we suddenly appeared in the open space? Li Mingze was confused. Wasn't he in the palace? How could he come to this unknown place with scientists and soldiers? Yes, the people in our camp carried you back. Half of your companions died in the past 6 months, and you are the first one to be rescued. Also, welcome to our world. The woman in the golden helmet used a scanner to scan Li Mingze for a while, then changed the operating table under him into a chair and let Li Mingze sit on the operating table. Your world, what is it called here? Li Mingze asked in confusion, moving his loosened arms. Our world, according to our saying, we call it Holy Land Star, the woman in the golden helmet sighed. How do you know we are not from your world? Li Mingze sensitively grasped the key words the woman just said. It's very simple. We, the Aborigines, all have antibodies to the divine mist in our bodies, but we didn't find any antibodies in your bodies. That is to say, all of you have come into contact with the divine mist for the first time, and without any protective measures. That's why you have been sleeping for half a year. When the divine mist first emerged, people who had inhaled it would produce weak antibodies. Until the divine mist broke out, those who had not inhaled the divine mist were directly unconscious for half a year and turned into mummies, and those who had antibodies only slept for a few days and successfully survived the disaster. The woman shrugged helplessly. Divine mist. Li Mingze felt as if he was about to come into contact with the truth of the matter. That's right, the sacred fog is the culprit that caused all of this. 200 years ago, the Shenki Group, the largest pharmaceutical company in the Milky Way, suddenly discovered a special substance on a planet. This substance can cause hallucinations in those who take it, and the hallucinations are so real that they seem to be happening in reality. Not only that, the hallucinations produced by this substance are all beautiful, which makes it possible for this substance to become a psychostimulant drug. The woman pulled over a chair and sat down. Chapter 495, Divine Mist and the Survivors. Soon, Shenki Company cracked the substance and started large-scale production. A neurostimulant called Shinmizu began to spread throughout the galaxy, and countless civilizations waved star coins just to get a small amount of Shinmizu. This neurostimulant has become popular among the upper classes of various civilizations, and people are immersed in the false life created by this stimulant. But this good time did not last long, and several other large companies in the galaxy began to envy the huge profits that this neurostimulant brought to Shenki Company. The joint fleet composed of these companies besieged the headquarters fortress and major branches of Shenki Company, and as far as I know, shortly after Shenki Company was destroyed by these companies, the Shenmizu broke out, and in just a few decades, the Shenmizu quickly spread throughout the galaxy through self-replication. All planets that hold the mist are shrouded in the constantly emerging Shenmizu, and people without antibodies die in their sleep, just like your companions. After telling the tragic history of her world, the woman in the golden helmet began to choke up. Obviously, this history touched her sad past. My brothers, sisters and parents all died in their sleep because they had no antibodies. Only the rebellious me survived because I developed antibodies after taking the divine mist with my friends. We, the survivors, collected a lot of supplies on this planet and set up several survivor camps. We also tried to crack this special substance that can pass through the protective shield. It was not until 20 years ago that we finally made a breakthrough. We invented a sobering potion that could wake up the sleepers and a method to isolate them, but these divine mists seem to know something. They have evolved. The new ones have made the effect of the sobering potion negligible. Even those of us who have antibodies have to wear protective clothing to move outdoors. In some areas where the divine mist is dense, the divine mist can even disintegrate our protective clothing. Therefore, many places on this planet have become restricted areas. The woman knocked on her golden mask. At this time, Mingze finally understood why the woman wore this strangely shaped mask. It turned out that their antibodies could not block the evolved divine mist. You can wake up after half a year. It is really the blessing of the gods. I hope your other companions can also wake up. We are really short of manpower now. There are not many people who can afford to absorb the magic mist. In addition, a group of people died after the evolution of the magic mist. So you know, there are only more than 3,000 people left in this survivor camp now. The woman's tone was full of helplessness. Can I go see my companions? Mingze got down from the chair and stretched his legs. This clone was genetically enhanced, so it would not be a big problem even if it had been dormant for half a year. Come with me. This is your helmet. Put it on. The woman threw a golden helmet to Mingze. Mingze put the helmet on his head without hesitation, only to feel his neck tighten. A tight isolation suit spread from the helmet to Mingze's whole body, completely isolating him from the outside world. I don't know if you have space storage technology and nano-recasting technology. Seeing that Mingze was a little confused, the woman explained helplessly. Start the ceiling check and external Shenwu content check. Isolation suit ceiling 100%, armor 100%, external Shenwu concentration 0.00%. Several lines of subtitles suddenly flashed before Mingze's eyes. Surprisingly, he could read them. By the way, this helmet can automatically translate languages, just like you can talk to me directly just now, in real time. The woman patted Mingze on the shoulder and opened the sealed door of the operating room. The outside world was a little different from what Mingze imagined. There was only a long cylindrical passage behind the door, and only at the end of the passage was there another alloy door. We are now in the pipeline of a large chemical plant. We found that the titanium alloy made of this pipeline is the only material that can prevent the penetration of Shenwu, so we moved the camp to this factory composed of countless pipelines and reaction chambers, where we can guarantee absolute safety. The woman knocked on the wall of the pipeline. Mingze hurriedly followed, and walked with the woman in various intertwined pipelines for more than 10 minutes before arriving at the factory workshop. The workshop was bustling with people. The huge titanium alloy cover tightly covered the workshop. In addition, everyone was wearing isolation suits, so the Shenwu could not cause any harm to the people in the survivors' camp. Your other companions are all concentrated in several other medical rooms. No one has woken up yet. We have not found any signs of these people being able to walk out of the illusion through the illusion observation device. By the way, the illusion observation device can read the data of your brain, so that we can know what you dreamed in the illusion. This is why we know that you are from another world. The reason why we don't let you enter the time and space shuttle in the illusion is that we found out all the people who entered the time and space shuttle finally suffered brain death within a few minutes. That is to say, you almost died inexplicably just now, His Majesty the Emperor of the Sith Empire. The woman added a teasing sentence at the end. This is also what she learned from Li Mingze's illusion, but fortunately Li Mingze returned to Earth when the woman was not there, and the illusion observation device could not record data, otherwise Li Mingze's origins would be completely exposed, instead of only exposing the fact that he is the Emperor of the Sith Empire. Why are you helping us? Li Mingze asked in confusion. We were just kind-hearted at first and wanted to help the same survivors, but until I knew your true origins, I am the only one who knows your origins. I hope you can take our people with you when you leave because we have helped you. We have had enough of this world where we are always worried. We hope to settle down in your empire. We will definitely obey the rule of your Sith Empire. We will regard the Sith Empire as our motherland, Your Majesty. The woman suddenly stopped and looked at Li Mingze earnestly. You don't know that the passage that can travel through time and space is one way. We can only leave when the passage is opened again on our side, and now it is still unknown what happened in my universe. The next time the passage is opened is still a long way off. Li Mingze sighed and shook his head. Chapter 496 Imperial Relics. 10 days later, Li Mingze, who had completely recovered to normal, was busy learning some basic knowledge and history of this world through the computer. During this period, none of his soldiers and scientists who were still sleeping woke up, and one of them died in his sleep. The female doctor who rescued Li Mingze was busy taking care of his subordinates, and he couldn't find anyone to chat with. Suddenly, a knock on the door pulled him back from the computer holographic screen. Come in. Li Mingze's eyes still didn't leave the display screen. He knew that the only person who had come to him was the female doctor who rescued him but never showed her true face. We just found a way that is likely to completely solve the threat of the divine fog. I wonder if you are interested? Do you have the courage to take a risk for your subordinates? The woman in the golden helmet opened the sealed door of Li Mingze's room and came to his side. Oh? What method? Tell me. Li Mingze turned off the computer and turned to face the woman. We rescued a man from a spaceship some time ago. The man claimed to be a technician from the Shanki group. According to this man, the spread of the substance called Shanki fog was originally only blocked by vacuum, titanium and plastic, but when Shanki was besieged by the enemy, it somehow started the evolution program of the Shanki fog. The evolution of the Shanki fog eliminated its shortcomings of being unable to penetrate plastic. Not only that, the Shanki fog has also evolved the ability to replicate itself, which is why most of the planets have fallen. The plastic containers that originally stored the Shanki fog on those planets and space stations could not stop the Shanki fog at all. The Shanki fog easily spread into the air. However, according to this technician, Shanki Company was not completely wiped out. Some of their secret bases hidden deep in the Milky Way survived. When the Shanki fog broke out and all colonies fell, Shanki Company took the opportunity to come back. They controlled most of the surviving space facilities in the Milky Way. Although the ground has become uninhabitable, the space cities in space that have not been infected by the Shanki fog can still provide them with a large amount of labor and survival supplies. According to this technician, Shanki Company could have controlled the divine mist a long time ago. In the ruins of Shanki Company's headquarters destroyed by many companies, there is a switch that can shut down the diffusion mechanism of the divine mist, but now the wreckage of Shanki Company's base camp is firmly guarded by Shanki Company's people, and we don't know if we can infiltrate it. How about it? Are you interested in joining us? The woman with a golden helmet extended her hand to Li Mingze. I will join. Li Mingze sighed and shook the woman's hand. His reinforcements are far away, and the divine mist may evolve again at any time. In addition, these sleeping scientists are all the best in the field of space science in the Empire. He must do everything he can to wake these scientists up, otherwise the Empire's space technology may stagnate for decades. Therefore, it is imperative to join this team to help these people. A few hours later, a Shanki Company's all-titanium alloy spacecraft took off from the planet and flew into deep space. Inside the spacecraft, Li Mingze was sitting in the cabin of the spacecraft with dozens of other survivors. This spaceship is the one of the Shanky company that crashed on the planet some time ago. After being repaired, the survivors let the spaceship fly back into the starry sky. As the spaceship continued to move forward, a huge ring with a diameter of tens of kilometers appeared in front of Li Mingze next to the star. This ring consists of two parts, the inner ring and the outer ring. The two rings are still rotating in opposite directions. The one in front is a relic from ancient civilization that our civilization discovered when it just left the planet. It is the Ambus ring. This huge building can absorb the energy of the nearby stars and open up a space channel to another star system for us. We can't understand the principle of this space channel, and we don't know how these channels are built. We only know that they can not only open up channels between galaxies, but its main structure is indestructible. In this way, our civilization gradually colonized the entire Milky Way using the Ambus rings built in various parts of the Milky Way. But later, with the corruption and incompetence of the government, major monopoly companies took the opportunity to rise. Zhang Zhenyu, who was wearing a golden helmet, who had just told Li Mingze her real name, pointed to the giant ring in front of the spaceship and explained. As the spaceship came to the ring, hundreds of flames suddenly rose from the stars and rushed towards the ring. As soon as these flames reached the ring, they were sucked into the ring by invisible forces. Red current lines began to appear on the originally dim ring. Hold on, Zhang Zhenyu patted Li Mingze's shoulder. Before Li Mingze could react, the spaceship was sucked into the gray hole in the middle of the ring, as if it was ejected. The scenery around the spaceship also turned into gray mixed with various colors that kept rotating. In this way, the spaceship flew in the channel for a full 10 days before it was spitted out from it and came to the universe. At this time, another ring appeared in front of the spaceship. By sending digital codes to the Ambus ring, it is possible to open space channels in different directions. In just these 10 days, we have crossed a distance of 5,000 light years. We still need to cross about 13 such rings to reach the vicinity of our destination. Zhang Zhenyu spoke lightly and continued the explanation 10 days ago. It has crossed 5,000 light years in 10 days. Li Mingze's eyes widened in shock. You know, the wormhole highway of his Sith Empire can only cross 10 light years a day. He didn't expect that the speed of this seemingly insignificant ring could reach more than 50 times that of the wormhole highway of the Empire. You haven't seen the several super Ambus rings at the end of the solar system arm ring. The diameter of those rings is as high as 500 kilometers. Each time the star energy extracted can reduce the life of the star by a full year. If these rings were not surrounded by binary star systems composed of superstars, the stars in these star systems would have been sucked dry long ago. Not only that, the space channels opened by these Ambus rings have reached the level of 10,000 light years per day. Through the space channels opened by these super Ambus rings, we can directly reach the extragalactic galaxies around the Milky Way. Chapter 497 Revisiting the Imperial Palace. It only takes 200 days to reach the nearest extragalactic galaxy through the intergalactic Ambus ring. This is also an important reliance of our civilization to maintain the rule of several galaxies. Each Ambus ring is heavily guarded. Zhang Zhenyu's mouth corners slightly raised, as if returning to the days when their civilization crisscrossed the starry sea. But after the outbreak of the divine mist, most of the warships were eroded by the divine mist, and the colonies also fell. Your civilization fell apart, and each galaxy lost contact with other galaxies. You are hiding on the planet and lingering, Li Mingze replied lightly. That's right, but we are not lingering. We just don't want to become their slaves under the rule of the Shanky company, so we stay on the planet. This is a forbidden place that these people dare not come, Zhang Zhenyu shrugged. During the two people's chat, time passed quickly, and 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, the spacecraft was approaching its destination, and at this time, through the holographic radar of the spacecraft, it was obvious that the number of spacecraft appearing around had increased, especially when the spacecraft reached the Ambus ring. Something is wrong. Our journey was a bit too smooth. Li Mingze stood in front of the window of the spaceship, looking at the spaceships that lined up with their spaceship to enter the Ambus ring, and said lightly. Wouldn't it be better to be smoother? Zhang Zhenyu asked softly beside him. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. There is definitely a problem, Li Mingze frowned. Don't think too much. I think you have been an emperor for too many years and have paranoia. Zhang Zhenyu chuckled a few times and turned away from the window, leaving Li Mingze still looking at the starry sky outside the window. The fact is full of surprises. The spaceship Li Mingze was on was the opposite of what he thought. It arrived at the destination smoothly without any problems along the way. The search of the Shanky Company's spaceship and the scan of the space station did not appear at all. This spaceship just flew around the wreckage of the Shanky Company's hometown. Is this Shanky Company too arrogant, or is there some conspiracy? Li Mingze muttered to himself while sitting in his seat. There is no conspiracy. We are about to enter the wreckage of this super fortress. Are you ready? Zhang Zinai handed a rifle to Li Mingze. Ready. Li Mingze took a deep breath and put his doubts behind him, holding the rifle tightly in his hand. After passing through the fortress composed of several space fortresses, the spacecraft flew into the wreckage of the Shanky Company headquarters in front of many Shanky Company guard warships. The volume of the wreckage of this headquarters is very large. According to Li Mingze's visual observation, it has reached half the volume of the starting ring world. The oblate spherical wreckage wrapped the stars in this star system, and countless fragments were constantly flying around the ruins. When the spacecraft passed through this huge shell, a ring-shaped building appeared in front of the spacecraft. This ring-shaped building was fixed inside the headquarters of Shanky Company, and right in front of it was a star that was also fixed. Unlike many shocked survivors, Li Mingze's pupils shrank suddenly when he saw this ring-shaped building. If he guessed correctly, this ring world was the starting point of the Sith Empire, the part where the palace of the ring world was located. The general shape of the dry seabed of this ring world was exactly the same as he remembered. This, Li Mingze looked at Zhang Zinai on the side in confusion. This is the reason why Shanky Company has become one of the few super companies in our civilization. Shanky Company was originally just a slightly larger enterprise hundreds of years ago, and it was completely incomparable with giants such as galaxy mining, but it is said that Shanky Company accidentally obtained a piece of building debris from an ancient civilization. Through the technology carried in this debris, Shanky Company has grown into one of the best super companies in our civilization. Zhang Zinai told everything he knew. Li Mingze on the side was about to vomit blood after hearing this. Could it be that the Sith Empire in this universe was destroyed again, and it became an ancient civilization in the eyes of other civilizations? There is no doubt that the so-called Abyss Ring must be the wormhole highway built by the Sith Empire in this universe, but it is an upgraded version of the current Sith Empire wormhole highway. Have you studied why this civilization was destroyed? Li Mingze asked casually. I can only say that we have a guess. Through continuous archaeological excavations, we have found a lot of information about this ancient civilization, but without exception, none of these materials mention the name of this civilization and their leaders, as if these messages are taboos for this civilization. In addition, the destruction of this ancient civilization seems to be due to a civil war. A civil war broke out suddenly without any warning, tearing this ancient civilization to pieces in an instant. Various weapons from various parties in the civil war destroyed most of the colonies of this civilization, leaving only some colonists on remote planets. I think we may be the descendants of the survivors of that civil war. Now we are repeating the old path our ancestors have taken and destroying the entire civilization through civil war. Zhang Zinai sighed. Li Mingze didn't know what to say for a moment. He didn't expect that the Sith Empire in this universe was destroyed by a civil war. But there is a question, that is, knowing that he can control all the high-tech equipment in the entire civilization through Tianyi, the civil war is impossible to break out. Unless something unexpected happens to Tianyi, such as disappearing. Then there is external intervention. We have arrived at the destination. According to the technicians, the device that controls the Shenwu is in the palace below us. As long as we enter the main engine under this palace, we can obtain the control program and information of the Shenwu. Zhang Zinai stood up and explained the goal of this mission to everyone in the cabin. Let's go! With a shout from Zhang Zinai, the airlock door of the spacecraft behind everyone suddenly opened, and the air in the cabin was instantly emptied. Everyone unfastened their seat belts and jumped out of the spacecraft through the open hatch. Li Mingze also followed Zhang Zinai and left the spacecraft. Flying over the Sith Palace, looking at the building that made him extremely familiar, Li Mingze's thoughts flew to every bit of the palace. The palace in his memory is so magnificent. And the beautiful scenery around the palace is also the best in the world. What is left here now? The dry riverbed and bare hills, and the main body of the palace are also covered with bullet holes and cracks. Chapter 498 True and False. Such a magnificent palace, it's hard to imagine what it felt like to live here. It must have been a great feeling. You are the emperor, how does your palace compare to this one? Is it far inferior? Zhang Zinayu curled her lips and asked Li Mingze beside her. She also had the dream of a Prince Charming in her heart. I feel that people living in this palace must be happy. Li Mingze thought of his every tear and couldn't help but smile. There are still 10 seconds to reach the ground. We will go in through the hole in the upper part of the palace made by the shell. Zhang Zinayu waved at a hole in front of him, put his hands behind his back and rushed into the hole. Li Mingze followed Zhang Zinayu and flew into the hole. When he landed, he looked around the ruins and found that the hole was located in his imperial study. It seems that the person who fired the shell wanted to kill him. Safe. We will be able to go directly to the ground floor hall of the palace by following the stairs of the building. I hope there will be no danger on the way. I don't know if there are any defense devices here. Zhang Zinayu opened her map after landing and began to look for the way to enter the underground base. I know where to enter. Li Mingze pretended to find it by accident and pressed hard under a bookcase embedded in the wall. The wall on one side of the imperial study opened to both sides to reveal a dark room. Where is this place? Zhang Zinayu put her head into the hole and then retracted it. It should be a secret room of this palace. Li Mingze walked into the dark room, and suddenly lights lit up around the room. It looks like there's a backup energy here, and it has not aged to the point where it cannot be used. Li Mingze waved at Zhang Zinayu. Is this an elevator? Zhang Zinayu looked around curiously after entering the room. At this moment, as Li Mingze pressed the button on the wall, the elevator began to descend. After a full minute, the elevator stopped at the bottom of the palace. When the two walked out of the elevator, the lights of the entire underground base were all lit up, and the milky white divine mist floating in the air also appeared in front of Li Mingze. We must rush in as soon as possible. It seems that this base, and even the headquarters of Shenki Company, have been controlled by the divine mist. We must rush to the room where the host is before they corrode our armor. Li Mingze looked at the armor value that was decreasing little by little on the monitor and shouted to Zhang Zinayu. The divine mist in this base has begun to evolve to the point where it can corrode titanium alloy. Fortunately, they came early, otherwise they might really be destroyed in the survivor camp. The two quickened their pace and passed through the heavy divine mist. After bypassing several corridors, they came to the host hall. Hurry up, we must quickly invade the host. These divine mists will corrode our isolation suits. Zhang Zinayu stopped in front of the host in a panic. Li Mingze nodded gently and activated the center console in front of him to enter the system interface. Seeing the familiar system interface, he was full of emotion. He didn't expect that he could enter the database of the Sith Empire again in another universe. Unlike general systems, in order to ensure the security of the host, Li Mingze and Tianyi set up a special security code for the host. Various symbols and numbers and letters were arranged on the side, and Li Mingze needed to fill all of this data into the designated picture. For example, the picture of the husky must put the 3 bytes 213 into the 2 eyes of the husky, and Li Mingze also had to make some facial expressions. The super password composed of many characters, pictures, and font shapes, plus facial expressions, made it impossible for any computer to decipher it, unless the other party was also an artificial intelligence computer that could transform into human form. Just when he was halfway through entering the password, Li Mingze suddenly stopped his work and stood still. What are you staring at? Enter the password quickly. We don't have much time. Zhang Zinayu saw Li Mingze stunned and said loudly. It's interesting. This play you played can be said to be perfect. You almost let me open our Sith Empire database. Li Mingze sneered and turned to face Zhang Zinayu. What are you talking about? Hurry up, we don't have much time. Don't make trouble. Zhang Zinayu stomped her feet anxiously. If I can give you a score for this conspiracy, I can give you 9 points, and the remaining 1 point is for some small loopholes. Li Mingze pretended not to hear and continued. Oh? How did you find out? Seeing that Li Mingze did not seem to be deceiving her, but really discovered the truth, Zhang Zinayu's expression also turned into a cold face. At this time, the surrounding fog suddenly receded, and the walls and floors in the room also receded like the tide, and the area around Li Mingze became blank. First, why was I able to wake up, but my subordinates could not, and they were even dying continuously? If I didn't know it before, now I can be sure that you are creating a sense of urgency for me. You want to take advantage of my humanity. Second, why would a spacecraft of the Shenki Company happen to make an emergency landing on your planet, and this person happens to know the secret of the Shenki Company? Third, our journey was too smooth. Even if I were an ordinary citizen going home, I still had to pass through the gate of the community. Why didn't any accidents happen until we arrived at this palace? 4th, after entering this palace, you didn't have any doubts about my familiarity with this palace. Isn't this strange? 5th, why does the sacred fog here continue to erode our armor, and the erosion time is just enough for me to enter the password? Now it seems that you still want to create a sense of urgency for me, so that I have no time to think and can only enter the password. The above is not enough to make me doubt anything, but I just discovered the most important problem. That's why I designed a password for this host that no one except me can crack, but Shenki Company was able to obtain information from it. In the end, this host actually contained the solution to the Shenwu. Didn't you say that Shenki Company discovered the existence of the Shenwu? Why would they store such a thing in a computer that they can't possibly open? Li Mingze hugged his arms and looked at Zhang Xianyu jokingly. Chapter 499, Illusion Within Illusion. Actually, these are just making me suspicious. What really makes me sure that all this is a carefully planned game by you is, when I turned around and told you for the first time that I discovered your truth, the speed at which the divine mist corroded my armor was reduced by 2/3. What does this mean? This means that you can control the speed at which the divine mist corrodes my armor. You want me to be able to open the password, so when I don't enter the password, you must slow down the time left for me, because you are worried that once the time is up, I will not enter the password completely and you will be suspicious. Originally you did very well, but the last step made you completely exposed, Li Mingze said here, and stepped forward to pat Zhang Xianyu's shoulder provocatively. You won, but we will not give up. Sooner or later, we will come back again, Zhang Xianyu gritted her teeth and said to Li Mingze viciously. Then, Zhang Xianyu's body gradually faded, and the world around Li Mingze gradually turned dark. A few seconds later, Li Mingze, who was in the medical room of the number 01 space-time transmission center, suddenly sat up. Your Majesty, you are finally awake. Just when Li Mingze opened his eyes, Tianyi's gentle voice came from his right. What happened? Li Mingze asked Tianyi. After we opened the space-time gate, a special substance penetrated into our world from behind the gate. After that, you fell into coma. Tianyi gently helped Li Mingze wipe the sweat from his forehead. Tianyi, do you know what I stored in the safe of the underground base of the palace? Li Mingze suddenly asked. In the safe? Let me think. You stored a whole ship of alien eggs in it? Tianyi thought for a moment and answered. Interesting, I am still in the illusion you created. How many layers of illusions have you prepared for me? Li Mingze suddenly held his forehead and said helplessly. Ah, Your Majesty, what do you mean? Tianyi asked puzzledly. Interesting, Li Mingze muttered to himself for a moment and closed his eyes. Everything around him was instantly pulled away from his body. Now he seemed to be suspended in a vacuum. There is only one reason why Li Mingze was able to discover that this world was still an illusion created for him by those guys. The base vault under the palace only stores various weapons and ammunition. There are no alien eggs at all. The so-called alien eggs are just something he had thought of when he woke up. Because he guessed that the person who created the illusion for him could read some data stored in the shallow part of his brain and embed it into the illusion. In other words, if an object does not exist, but Li Mingze makes himself think that it exists, then the object in this illusion exists. Because the guy who created the illusion thought that there were really alien eggs in the vault after reading Li Mingze's thoughts, but they didn't know that this was just Li Mingze's imagination, and there were no alien eggs in the vault at all. In this way, Li Mingze can easily distinguish whether he is in the real world or still exists in his own fantasy. Human, you are very strong. You are the most powerful person we have ever met. We don't have enough energy to create illusions. You won. You won your freedom and the safety of your world. I hope we can meet again. Li Mingze suddenly opened his eyes after hearing the voice in his ear. Looking around, Li Mingze found that all the scientists around him and the soldiers in the hall were in a coma. Fortunately, these people gradually began to wake up. Tianyi, do you know what is in the box in my bedroom? Li Mingze suddenly called Tianyi. Your Majesty, there is no box in your bedroom. Why don't I find any box when I clean every day? Tianyi asked in confusion. Haha, it's okay, Li Mingze laughed twice. It seems that he should have returned to the real world, otherwise Tianyi's answer would not be that there is no box. You know, he conceived two ideas in his brain. One is that there is a ring in the box, and the other is that he wants to have a ring in the box, but the box is actually empty. If those guys read his thoughts, then Tianyi's answer would be either that he didn't know what was there, or that he knew there was a ring, or that it was empty. But he would not know that there was no box at all. After hundreds of years of using the consciousness descent device, Mingze has been able to perfectly control his thoughts. He can hide certain thoughts as if he had never thought of them. Tianyi, quickly pass the faces and information of every soldier in our empire in front of me, Mingze ordered Tianyi again. This move is because any illusion is built on his brain. When something exceeds the computing power of his brain, the illusion will have flaws. The detailed information and faces of the 300 million soldiers of various branches of the empire are undoubtedly beyond the computing limit of his brain to be fictionalized. If so, when these 300 million pieces of information flashed quickly before his eyes, he could already be sure that he was now in the real universe. Tianyi, after the space-time channel was opened, did you detect any abnormalities? Mingze asked again after confirming that it was completed. After the space channel was opened, some unknown substances poured in from the space channel, but I can't analyze this substance. There is no information about this substance in my database. However, after this substance spread, everyone in the base fainted. I don't know what harm this substance will do to them, Tianyi sighed and replied. So, these substances only spread in the base? Mingze suddenly asked. Yes, after contacting the vacuum outside the base, these substances stopped. Tianyi's image nodded. Haha, you didn't expect that. Although you entered my mind, I also got information from you, including your weaknesses. Mingze suddenly showed a cold smile. Because any illusion is based on the pictures that Mingze witnessed with his own eyes, and many of the pictures in the illusion he has never seen in reality. This means that these messages were brought by Shenwu from another universe. These are messages from another universe. In another universe, it is very likely that there is really a survivor camp in Shenki Company. And this is undoubtedly a great wealth for the empire. I have decided that if the average number of subscriptions for a chapter increases by 100 the next day, I will update once more the next day. For example, if the average number of subscriptions for a chapter is 170 now, then if a chapter has 270 subscriptions today, I will update 3 times, 370 subscriptions will be 4 times, and 470 subscriptions will be 5 times. It will be capped and will last until I can no longer bear it. Chapter 500, Attempt to enter PX0009E Universe. The space-time channel to the PX0009E universe is about to open. All units are ready. A few days later, the sound of a broadcast was heard in the hall of the space-time shuttle center. The glass around the hall had been tightly wrapped by several layers of titanium alloy armor, and the middle of these armors was a vacuum zone deliberately left. A dull sound of footsteps came from the corridor, and a team of heavily armored soldiers entered the transmission hall from the corridor on one side. The extremely heavy power armor worn by these soldiers was all newly manufactured and used for exploring the PX0009E universe. Under the outer armor made of all titanium alloy is a whole layer of isolation layer in a vacuum state. The inner and outer armors rely on dozens of small field generators to maintain stability, so that there is no contact between the inner and outer armors. Although it is not known whether the weakness of the so-called divine fog in the PX0009E universe is vacuum and titanium metal, in order to explore that universe, we can only try it. With a burst of alarms, the air in the hall was completely sucked away, and the hall became an absolute vacuum state. A flash of light flashed, and the heavily armored squad in the hall disappeared, but the so-called divine mist did not appear. It seemed that just as Mingze expected, the vacuum could block the spread of the divine mist. PX0009E Universe, Holy Land Star. A team of heavily armored soldiers appeared out of thin air on a vacant lot. What caught the soldiers' eyes was endless white mist, and their visual distance was only a short distance of 40 or 50 meters. Under the white mist was a city that looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. Weeds had grown again on the dilapidated streets, and hovercrafts were parked on both sides of the road. Although the doors of the shops on the street were open, the shops had been looted. As the soldiers walked through the street, they noticed the skeletons in the cars. Over the past 100 years, the flesh on these skeletons had disappeared, but from the postures of these skeletons, these people did not suffer any pain when they died. Everyone be careful, these poor guys seem to have been killed by the divine mist. Under no circumstances should you open your armor, the captain of the soldiers ordered loudly in the communication channel. This invisible enemy is the most terrifying. According to His Majesty the Emperor, although these divine mists can be eliminated by high temperature, Even if only the size of a needle tip remains, these divine mists can quickly return to their original appearance. In addition, the beam weapons in the divine mist will be scattered, so this team is only equipped with ordinary electromagnetic rifles. The defense targets of these rifles are not the divine mist, but the natives here. Suddenly, a burst of fine footsteps came from the team. The soldiers nervously aimed their weapons at the surroundings, but these mists provided a natural barrier for the enemies in the dark, and the soldiers could not see anything at all. The various scanning devices they relied on also lost their function in this divine mist. In this world, they seem to have become blind. We have no hostility. We are here to help you. The captain of the team turned on the broadcast module on the armor and shouted to the surroundings. You have been surrounded. Put down your weapons and we will believe that you have no hostility. A pleasant female voice came from the white mist. The Imperial soldiers looked at each other for a moment, put the rifles in their hands back on their backs, and stretched their hands into the air, indicating that they no longer had weapons in their hands. At this time, dozens of survivors wearing isolation suits came out of the fog holding rifles. Who are you? A woman wearing a golden helmet stood up and asked loudly. We are the rescue team of the Sith Empire. Our mission is to help the survivors in the divine fog return to real life. The captain of the Empire team spread his hands and explained to the survivors. He was not lying. Mingze prepared a planet for the survivors in this universe. A colonial city covered by a dome has been built on this planet. Although the environment is not good, at least there is no need to worry about the threat of the divine fog. The reason why Mingze is so enthusiastic about the survivors in this universe is that these survivors must have a certain understanding and research on the divine fog. Not only can they help the Empire to study the divine fog, some of them may have technology and knowledge that the Empire has never known. The rescue team of the Sith Empire? Why haven't we heard of the Sith Empire? Is it a newly established country after the catastrophe? The leading woman asked in confusion. She didn't remember that there was a civilization called the Sith Empire in the Milky Way and several surrounding galaxies. We come from a more distant galaxy, so you certainly haven't heard of it. After we received the distress signal from your galaxy, we traveled tens of millions of light years through the artificial space channel to your galaxy. Our mission is to save your galaxy and obtain your galaxy's resources and technology. The captain of the Imperial team certainly couldn't tell the truth that he came from a parallel universe. If the technology that can travel through the universe is exposed, it would not be a fun thing. The Empire may be destroyed by a more powerful civilization at any time. We have built a colony for you. As long as you can help us open a stable space channel, the survivors in your galaxy can continuously go to your new home through the space channel, where there will be no trouble from the divine fog. The captain showed the survivors a short video introducing the newly built colony. After watching the video, the survivors whispered to each other and nodded from time to time. We agree to help you open the space channel, but how should we do it specifically? The leading woman of the survivors stretched out her hand and shook the hand of the captain of the Imperial team. It takes a lot of energy to open a stable space channel. We need an energy station that can provide energy for the entire planet. The captain of the Empire team turned the approximate amount of energy needed into a numerical value and showed it to the woman. This is not easy. Since the catastrophe, most of our energy stations have stopped working. The only energy stations left in orbit are still in the hands of the Shanky Company. Got it. I know there is a relic of an ancient civilization. That relic is a Dyson sphere. Although it has been thousands of years, the relic is still well preserved. Before the catastrophe, it was transformed into a tourist attraction. We can try to reactivate the Dyson sphere. The woman's frown suddenly relaxed as if she had thought of something. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.